municipal parking.
I parked down.
I think it's a few spots, it's municipal only, it's not out there.
Yeah.
And there's, I think only a few spots are like municipal only, right?
Yeah,
And
the
then
ones closer to,
this side,
Yeah.
I think back when,
It's a lie detector.
when OD's was there was more, I think, and then the Bergen Community College restaurant was there was more leeway for people parking there.
the RCC, Rocket
Oh,
Community
Rockland,
College,
sorry,
yeah.
Bergen.
That's such a delay.
It's like
What
Bergen-
is that? I'm like, what's with the hand signal?
Bergen County, it's Rockland Community College.
All right, so hopefully people will wind their way here, but let's get started. The purpose of this workshop is to talk about. We've had a couple of, this is the third, I believe, formal meeting. The others were not workshops. They were kind of community meetings about the parking situation near the hospital. And just to sum up, for those of you who might be watching or some of you might not have been here, we have an issue that despite the building of the new parking garage, well, the newish parking garage at the hospital, and despite the fact that the hospital does provide off-site parking that people can walk from up on 9W, we do have a number of people that work at the hospital that, and also that park in the community, in the neighborhood on the public parking on the streets, which tends to reduce the amount of parking available for the residents. I think is another complicating factor, though we've never actually talked about it in these meetings, has been the amount of parking that BOCES takes up, because BOCES is also operative during the day, which is when they have their heaviest traffic. So a lot of that parking, which people attribute to the hospital, is probably also partly because of BOCES, but you do have a very busy corridor there. And so we've had a lot of externalities that are caused by the two big businesses that run there in terms of parking. We have talked, just to FYI, we have talked about some other issues that have come up with regard to the hospital, namely the discharge of patients. We've talked about that. We've talked about the fact that it's not just the people parking, but it's to some extent them blocking driveways, them leaving garbage on the street and things like that when they either empty their cars or they're getting ready to leave for work, or loud music of the workers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
4 in the morning, I'm hearing some rap.
Okay,
Rock and roll and.
that's the hospital people?
Yeah, they sit and they eat their breakfast in the cars and blast music. And it's
So
like-
we have talked to the hospital about just on a separate issue of the courtesy of people who are parking in a residential neighborhood to recognize that people are living there and to be cognizant of that. But we're gonna narrow down on the issue of parking and also talk, and specifically narrow down, as Andy will get into, the issue of that one of the potential solutions for this is to apply to the state to have the area set up for residential parking permits, which would then, the residents could get permits to park on the street, which would then make the streets unavailable for parking for certain periods of time by people that are not residents. But let's talk, you want to summarize some of the stuff you've done on this?
Sure. Is this working at all?
No, I don't hear you. That's not,
Hopefully that won't pull out.
I think you're right.
So how's everybody doing? Full house tonight. I'm seeing Tim Adams from BOCES over there. It's been a long time, so it's nice to see you, Tim. My office used to be over there years ago. So what's that?
20 years ago.
20, was that 20 years? Wow. Time flies. So as the mayor was saying, well, let's go back a little bit. So this area was identified probably about 10 or more years ago as a kind of a hospital zone for parking regulation amendment, and the village adopted the 8 to 11 a.m. alternate side, which kind of disrupted the daytime use of parking on the residential streets. And I live on one of those streets, and rather than it being blocked up early in the morning all day long, it's kind of a little more spotty when the 8 to 11 is in when it's that day on that side of the street. That sort of indicates, I think, to all of us that the village had an interest and has an interest in trying to regulate parking in a special way around the hospital. The options available to us to create more turnover there, would essentially be a time limit on parking. A 2 to 3 hour time limit like we have on in a municipal parking lot or some other areas. But the problem with that would provide a lot of access to parking because the cars would come and go a lot. Problem with that is the typical resident might want to leave their car out on the street for longer than that. And the idea is that we want to try to provide a workaround for residents only that would enable us to have a time limit that wouldn't be detrimental to residents who want to park on the street for the whole day, say. That raises the question of how we can do that. Under state law, the village cannot have a preferential parking permit system for its residents without state legislation permitting that. They do that. It's pretty common in areas where there's like a Metro North stop and there's a lot of commuter parking. And the state recognizes that under those special circumstances, it makes sense to have a resident preference on what's otherwise a public road that anybody's free to drive on or park on. And so that raises the question of whether or not that makes sense for the village to pursue. There are some smaller tweaks that we could do. We could expand the 8 to 11 zone, is one idea. But that kind of mix of having a time limit on all day parking with a resident permit, which enables residents to park there in excess of the time limit, it's kind of the mix that in some ways would be ideal. I do want to advise the board that there are a number of costs associated with implementing such a system, starting with the application to the state, which presumably we could be successful on if we try hard and put together a good case. Trustee Pascal, Jean Gilles has seen a couple of these in her capacity working for the state. So assuming we could actually do that, once we had that permit system in effect, we could try to pursue the time limit parking. And so I just want to describe to the board a little bit of what I'm seeing. I wrote a pretty detailed memo. It's in your packets and it's available to the public on this workshop calendar. I don't know how many people actually had a chance to read it, or I read all the way through. You get a special prize if you read all the way through. It's pretty kind of nerdy and in the weeds. But the short version is that it's a fairly significant investment for the village. A parking permit system which could handle and feasibility investigation is needed more to even know the sort of scale, but how many residents would be eligible for that? The village has 8,000 people in it, so some fraction of that, let's just say 2 for the sake of argument, a permitting system to enable us to administer all those permits, a fee associated with that. We'd have to do staffing analysis to make sure we have enough labor hours in the clerk's office to handle the people would have to come in, just like a monthly permit. The village currently administers permits, several hundred permits for monthly parking in our municipal lots. You have to verify that the person, what their address is, their residence, their vehicle license plate model, and so on. And it has to be renewed periodically, and people periodically change cars and so on. So there's a process for administratively that we'd have to set up in order to handle a permit system that is not insignificant. The other piece that we would need to do is invest in a license plate reading kind of automated system, which basically you put on the roof and windows of your parking enforcement vehicle, and it can automatically read license plates. It's the only way to adequately keep track of how long people are parking. When we use meters, the metering is easy to enforce because you can see the license plate, either it's paid or it isn't paid. If it's just sitting there for 2.5 hours, the only way to know that is if you drive by 1 hour, then go back around 3 hours later and see if they overstayed their welcome. And in order to do that at that volume, we would need a automated system. Those systems have a cost around $50,000-$60,000 startup, some carrying cost with the software and the equipment licensing and so on. So there's a little bit of cost involved to set up a system like this, both in terms of staffing and technology. And I wanted the board to be aware of that. We don't have exact numbers, but kind of we can approximate those, and we can talk about it as we come into the budget season, which we're about to enter. The budget is adopted by the board in April for May start to the fiscal year. So those are some of the ideas that we've been sort of thinking about as being relevant to this discussion. Another question is really kind of what people who live and work there really need. And that's why I'm glad that BOCES is here tonight, because it's not just the hospital employees and visitors for treatments and so on who are parking on our streets. It's also teachers and students who go to BOCES. And I'm hoping we can learn a little bit more about what that parking demand is and sort of how it affects the streets and what your operations require. The hospital recently built a big garage, and in theory, they're covering their need, but of course, since it costs money, a substantial number of people don't want to use it. And so not all of the staff use it, not all of their customers use it. They're looking for free parking in the vicinity. And that's why we have them parking up and down Sickles and Haven and Front Street and going up Midland a little bit. I don't, some of the cars that usually park on Fifth Avenue may be mostly BOCES staff or students or other people coming to programs. I don't know. But if we adopt a rule for, a 3-hour limit there, it will change the parking availability for BOCES and others who may be visiting the village or visiting friends and relations and staying over in various ways. So I think I've kind of outlined some of the things that need to be figured out to pursue that strategy.
All right, so let's first of all, is there any questions from the board to Andy about what he described as the kind of the contours of this? No, all right, so we'll get to the questions from the group, okay.
Anyway, with regard to the permit system.
Oh, good, just talk about it.
So,
With regard to the permit system, so residents will get a permit. What about if they have guests coming?
So to be honest, Trustee Carlin, I don't know exactly how that would work. It's a good question. I'd have to learn more about the permitting software and see what measures are possible. We don't want to end up in a situation where we have a lot of requests that need to be handled manually. Right now, the kind of request we get is somebody has some special need, like they need to put a storage cube on the street for a couple of days. We handle requests that are sort of infrequent for those kinds of overnight parking kind of accommodations to make. We don't have anything approaching the scale of what we're sort of conceptualizing here tonight. How exactly that gets handled, I don't know.
It's just something that should be considered, obviously. And that we do.
Right.
Let's take some questions, yeah.
one thought would be is that the homeowner park on the street so the guests can go to your driveway. And then your homeowner's license plate will be on their car. So when you know in advance you're having friends come over, you find a spot on the street, driveway's open, your friends park in your driveway. And
Yeah, I mean, there's the typical workaround that if you have a permit, then you park on the street as much as possible and allow your driveway to be used by somebody who's coming to work on your stove, or if you have someone stay over, or whatever the case may be. There's the sort of non-bureaucratic workaround to just manage that process. So yeah, you can do it that way. You can think of other possible solutions, but a lot of them involve, someone having to go get a temporary permit and pay for a temporary permit to go for somebody's car, which, if the person's coming for an overnight, probably not worth the time, but someone's coming for a week and a half, maybe you want to go do that. And I do want to stress, this is not, I was trying to explain to people, it's not a magic bullet, because it does come with costs. As Andy described some of the costs of the village, if those costs have to be picked up in some way. And the permits would probably not be very costly, but they would not be free, because there's administrative costs associated with having to take all the information and manage it and all that sort of thing. So, right now you can park for free, but everybody can park for free. You now would be able to park anytime you want. Other people wouldn't be, but that would cost you something. I don't think a lot, but the permit lots are between 40 and 60 a month. It would not be that much, because that 40 or 60 a month is designed to cover the fact that you don't have to pay for a meter. Up by the hospital, it's not metered parking, it's just trying to keep it to resident restricted. Let's take more questions or comments. And actually, at some point, I'd love to hear from, what the parking needs are and how you've been managing that. Because you do have two big lots, right?
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Tim from Rockland County BOCES, Director of Facilities. I've been with Rockland BOCES for 31 years. I started in Niagara. And, when I first started, the parking was a nightmare. It was tennis courts and all that in the back. BOCES, at their expense, removed the tennis courts, made a bigger lot. you know, the common, because everybody's parking all around town. You know, and Bosse's has been a great neighbor for 31 years. Anytime our student gets a call, or I get a call, we respond to a neighbor, or we respond to, you know, the town or the village calling us about, you know, a little extra ice on the sidewalk, or guys going, you know, assaulted. So we have about 14 people that park in the morning on Fifth Avenue. So we service 135 kids in the first floor, the second, that have, you know, emotional needs. Our adult ed average, probably English speaking, and DOL is there, Department of Labor. We probably have offset DOL, we set aside 10 spaces in the lot for them. What we did is we hired an engineer just a year ago or 2 years ago. We extended the lower lot by 5 spaces. We moved the garbage container to gain 3 more on this side. Then we went up top, realigned the spaces, gained another 1 handicap to meet the state regulation on handicap. So it's not like we're not trying. But
I will just say, let me just interrupt you just to say that this is the 3rd or 4th meeting we've had on this issue. And literally, it's the first time we even brought up the Bosse's parking. So people have generally had more issues with the hospital. In fact, they've had not just more issues, they've had issues with the hospital. They've not brought up, as far as I can remember, I've never heard Bosse's brought up. So either you're doing a very good job of maintaining relationships with the neighbors, or you really have been moderating the use of the public parking by the Bosse's staff and students.
My experience and my superintendent and everybody, and it happened to be the guy who ran NIAC for years, Chris Lambrisi, became our superintendent, so he just moved, you know, over the West NIAC, so he was the head of the adult ed. So yeah, we try our best. We get a call, we try, you know, to do what we can do, you know, for the neighbors.
So
to an extent, you know.
how many spaces do you have on site?
We got well over probably 170.
All right, so you have 170 spaces,
We've took up every
every nook and cranny, you've got a
that the
space.
state will authorize.
And how many, what do you think the number of people who drive to the facility on an average day, how many people are that?
The home run of the facility is that busing is right there on the corner.
Yes.
So a lot of our adult ed take buses from Spring Valley, from, you know, all around, and they get off that corner. If you see them on a Saturday, you see about 50, 60 people walking down the street. Yep. So once in a while, the adult ed students will go to a side street, or, you know, because they're looking for space, you know, to get to school. It was all right when we had St. Anne's down the road, because then we had a couple of spaces that way. But we moved out of St. Anne's years ago. So for us, if you put in a parking permit thing for the homeowners and stuff like that, we have nowhere to put the staff. There's a couple staff that do park on Fifth Avenue, that get there at 7 o'clock to park. Most of it is the hospital from the fire lane up. You know, we got a couple there. If I cone off for a special event, like opening day, Superintendent's Day, I put a couple cones out and keeps them out. But once in a blue would be one of our cars there, but the rest goes up Fifth, Midland, and on Haven, the tip. It's mostly hospital. From there down, it was Bosse's and sporadic. On Fifth, we're about 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 on Fifth. If you look at our boiler room side, you look at where the buses line up on Fifth Avenue, and then you go down the hill a little bit. Those spaces right there. It's mostly the teachers that park there. Because our administration for Riverview Park by the boiler room, they all have signs that assign spaces. So from 7 to 3, it would create a hardship for buses. You know, because we can't go on the football field, we keep locked all the time because we don't want cars. We don't want dogs running wild. We don't want, you know, open season. So we keep it locked. The hospital has a key, the security has a key for a helicopter. We've had it like that for years. So, you know, we work great with the hospital. We work great. I think with everybody.
I'll just go back to my question. I'm just trying to get a sense of the number of people in a given day that'll be at the facility that are not bussed in. Like not bussed by the, I'm talking about not the yellow buses, that they bring a lot of people in on a daily basis. I know because I pass it every day. So you're getting people bused there on the yellow buses, some people are obviously also coming from the public buses. But how many
Yeah.
people total are there minus the bus people?
Just staff without parents or anything coming from Riverview, it's about 70.
Okay,
So are your parking lots basically
Because
full?
You go through, I'm sorry.
Are your
you go
parking
through
lots-
811, the state ratio of what they determine.
okay, I'm just saying, you have 140 spots and you're saying there are,
We have, yes, we have DOL there, which takes
So your overflow's about 12 to 14 cars, that's what you said.
Yeah.
That's it.
on the right
so
side of
you're
it.
talking about a dozen cars or so that in terms of that you can't accommodate in your parking lot.
Yeah, sometimes a little more, depending if we have something going on in the road.
That's why it hasn't come up as much,
But
okay,
if you have 71 staff, right?
it's not just, he's talking
And
about outside
also, we got
buses.
71 staff plus DOL, another 10, which is 81. Then you have adult ed students that drive. So adult ed, we service 115 classrooms to 15. Probably anywhere from 130 to 160 students a day. Then at night, we have another 160.
Is
at
your
night.
parking lot full? Is it full?
I can't even get a space. I park by the garage, I have it in the signs. I park by the garage, cause I gotta get in and out, I go all over the place. Rock and roll, so. We just wanna make this, we just want to come by tonight and make sure our voice was heard on how it could affect us. And, let it be known that we've been good neighbors and, if there's ever a complaint, we try to work as quick as possible to solve it, so. We see everybody's point, because we live it sometimes, but there's kind of respecting between the hospital and our spots now, for the last few years. They know where to stop, and we know where to start, so.
There's a unspoken agreement to not,
Yeah,
Go
'cause we
into
phoned
each other's
off for a
sort of
while,
room.
so they got the hint from this space back and from here down.
all right, so then, thank you, I appreciate that. Anything, good, questions?
Is there a way to expand, like the mounds that are going up to the building, can there be more spots for you, on that bigger lot on that side?
No, there's
There's no way to expand the
There's
lot.
no way, because the state mandates that we have 20, 30 feet from the building. And especially with the hill right there, just the retaining wall alone was estimated at $600,000. So there's no way we're gonna come up with that. Especially right now with the other stuff that we have.
Cheaper to rent space from the hospital parking lot that they don't use.
It's, yeah, and don't get me wrong, I see everybody's point and all that, but if you could do something from 4 o'clock on, home run.
It's not gonna bother you at all.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't sound like there's a huge burden because not only are you parking, you're talking about maybe a high of 15 to 20 on a given day of spot people that are parking on the streets. But you indicated that they tend to park on Fifth Avenue on the hill, which is close to Bosse's, but not all that convenient for anybody that doesn't live on Fifth Avenue, because no one wants to walk up and down that hill and park. I know, because I live at the bottom of that hill, and I'll be damned if I walk up that, so unless I'm exercising, I don't wanna walk, I have to go to Bosse's for a concert, I'm driving, I'm parking, there's no way.
As you can.
That is a tough hill. You wouldn't even be allowed to build a road on a grade that steep today, that wouldn't be allowed. You have to level it out. But so that's, I mean, I think this has come up. It's really the hospital, that's really the big burden on the community. So I think we can just tie off the fact that there's a small little bit of this that's coming from the Bosse's, but it's not the big part of it. And where Bosse's parks tends to be in a less of a demand spot, because those down on Fifth is not as in demand. So let's go back to the.
Even at the bottom of lower part of Haven, because those people live in the apartments, most of the people that live there. The end of our street, they have spots in there, so they're not on the street.
Oh, yeah, because
You know what I
like
mean?
when we snow plow out our lot, we get all these cars that jump in there before we can salt.
So I mean,
And we're cool, we wait till they leave and then we salt, you know what I mean? It's their apartments,
Right.
some
they're
people's
not really
houses.
as effective as
So
the
we
other houses.
we all work together. But also too, if we change something with the hospitals, then they're gonna start moving away.
Right, I wanted to mention that. If we adopt a time limit on Haven, Sickles, Front,
Yeah.
so on, people are gonna be coming over onto Fifth, Francis and Central.
And we have the same problem that you talk about. How do we're dealing with it on campus right now. We just made little cards for student parking lot, so security could just see. Make it move quicker, because we were going out to Tremon's, backed up, so the town called us, we're like, I would like to come up with something quick. Because we were stuck in it, I was stuck in it, some mornings too. And, you know, we made little cards, but we gotta come up with a better system, because we have a security guy right there, we have gates. You know, so we're in the same predicament, trying to come up with a thing that helps everybody, you know, and temporarily, we just handed out these little cards, but they don't, you know, it's like, we tell them by face, but I don't recognize it, but it will enable, we need to just take into consideration, whenever we change the hospital, the people that go there will just find other ways.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted
There'll
you.
be some of our English speaking students that don't understand the signs that we put up too. So, and they'll get fines and they'll be like, well, you know, it could hinder economically the process.
Yeah, so the bottom line, I just wanted the board to understand is if we regulate time limits on the 8 to 11 streets that exist now, it's gonna put increased pressure on streets that have not been included in that hospital parking regime, i.e. Fifth, Francis, Central, maybe a little further up Midland, maybe even on the Sixth, I don't know. Like,
Aren't those like down near you? I mean, I know.
we don't get down the bottom of the hill much
Okay,
from the hospital.
Cause I mean, like, when.
We don't wanna walk up the hill either.
I mean, on Haven, there's a constant flow, and I know there's no spots, I can look down the hill, they come up.
They
They go down the hill on Haven, but they don't go down on Fifth.
Yeah, the calf burner.
Right, but they are also on Francis and Sixth anyway, because I live on that street and the street
So they
parking
park there?
is full when I leave. There are times when I'll leave around like 10. It's all, my street's full.
Yeah,
Which street?
Franklin.
Francis and Sixth. Because even when I leave, because I have a parking lot, but when I leave my parking lot on Francis, both sides, I mean, not now because of all the construction that's going on, but usually both sides are full. I always thought it was other BOCES people because it was so close, so I don't know who it is now.
So you think that's not BOCES?
We have the
You can't enforce the hospitals to allow their employees to park for free, right? You can't do that either.
We can't, no, we don't have any authority to be able to do that. No, the hospital, I mean. The hospital's in a tough place, so I'm a little sympathetic to the fact that they spent a lot of money on that parking garage. They can't, they have to charge for park, like if it's not coming from that, it's gonna come from something else. They're running a, you know, it's a nonprofit, it's a business. So they can't just like say, well, we'll let everybody park for free. We've encouraged them to try to find ways to let they do give the employees not a bad deal, but the employees don't wanna pay anything. So that ends up with that, that challenge. Let me ask a couple of questions, people here. What is is this mostly a day shift type problem, or is there adequate parking at night?
It's like 4 in the morning until the second shift later at night, so even it's like one comes, the other the other comes in afterwards. To your point about the hospital charging, I went down, I basically gone down to the Englewood hospital. They have parking decks that are free for their employees and for their
Other hospitals?
Yeah, other hospitals, and Ridgewood as well, their lot, when it was in the center of town, now they moved it out, but it was free except LA, you paid extra. So I'm just saying is like they're people coming to visit for actual service are being charged too. They used to give them
Used to be free valet parking when
now,
you
but
came
now,
in.
now if you even attend the hospital, it's not even like just their employees, but everyone who uses it. And that's, I mean, the idea was for this garage to alleviate parking. It's not. Now they're making money off of parking, so.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't wanna be pejorative about the hospital. The fact is, the hospital, they're not, you say they're making money on parking. My guess is that the parking garage is a massive loss of revenue, in terms of what they have to pay to make it, what they have to pay to maintain it. That they're not saying they're making money, they're not making profit on it. If they were not to charge for it, I don't know their financials. I don't know the financials of their hospital compared to Ridgewood. You know, it's tough to say that, I'd rather. When this keeps coming back, it's like, why don't we make the hospital do something? We're not gonna make the hospital, we can't force the hospital to do something. We can make it very difficult for the people that work at the hospital to park on the street, which would probably then put pressure on the hospital in certain ways to try to accommodate them. But I feel like, so we keep getting pulled into a conversation about, well, you know, we approved the hospital, they got built, they were supposed to do this, supposed to do that. That to me is a dead end, because we're not gonna get anywhere that way. It's a question, what can we do within our power to try to accommodate? So I'm trying to get it, and like, that's why I asked the question, like, you're saying it's basically bad at night and during the day, like at night you can't find parking on the street.
You know. I
Cause that
guess-
wouldn't make sense to me, it wouldn't make sense that it's the same.
So in the night shift, I forget, there was some of the employees, were last meetings, I think what, the second shift is 3,
I'm asking you for your impression of the amount of parking available at night versus the daytime, like,
it thins
More
out.
availability at night.
I would just, yeah, I'm guessing.
Or it thins out at probably like 6, 7, 8 when they start leaving, but there still are people who are in the late shift who park in there. You know, if it's available, they get in when they come in.
But
Yeah.
on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when there's no parking until 11, pretty open all day long. It doesn't go back up after like 11. Tuesdays and Thursdays on our street, I don't know about the rest, but you can't park until 11 o'clock. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, like for example, today, I'm like, okay, it's 10 after 11, I can go move my car. My daughter had to get out. There was 10 spots on the street. Park
Now-
wherever I wanted.
Okay, so you're saying that the 8 to 11 parking restriction alternate side does actually have the effect of reducing
Yes.
their use of the streets?
Partially.
Cause I've heard the opposite, I've heard that they will just wait out the thing and they'll move the
Right.
car.
When I leave it for work at close to 10:30, they're all sitting in their cars for the lunch break, because that's the thing we were talking about, is that they time it, so they go out, because a lot of their shifts, that's their lunch break time, so they come out like right before 10 minutes up to 11, and they sit and they let their cars idle in the strip on the baseball field there. And then it starts backing up. People, when they do get their break, they come out and move their car again, or if they're attending the hospital, then it fills up quickly. I would say from, that 11 o'clock to maybe 12:30, there's a few spots, but then but after 12:30, those spots are all.
Because you said, you just seemed to indicate something to Tina, you just indicate something a little different, that,
That's yeah, well, I'm home during the day. I work from home, so I know, it's my experience that if I ever, my coworker has to move a car, like, my driver could be jammed between cars in the morning, and then it's like 11 o'clock, okay, move the cars, because always the top.
is it,
cars to get out.
you live in a different, where do you live?
Court.
You're on Haven, you both on Haven?
We live next to each other. Yeah.
Alright, so, but you're describing a different experience than
She's
she's
saying at
describing.
11. She's saying like, roughly 11, but by 12:30, those spots are all.
Both sides will be taken.
There's
You only have one side.
one way, it's not a
Oh.
one way, it's yeah,
One side is
side
free
parking.
parking.
Oh, so there's no parking allowed from, on either side from 9, that's on your block, there's no parking from 8 to 11 on either side.
There's no spots on one side of the
Yeah, they
street,
can
only
only
on
park on one side. Yeah.
So it's not alternate side there, it's alternate side other places like on Midland, but your side, it's not alternate, it's just no parking then. So nobody parks there during the day on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays.
So after 11
After
o'clock.
No, I'm saying on the side that's not allowed from 8 to 11.
No, nobody, you can't, it's not a.
Well,
They
they
don't
park,
bother
they
coming.
park, but they get tickets, but some people still park anyway, and then they get, you see, when I leave work, the few stragglers, we get tickets for parking.
Yeah, I'm envisioning it now, that's the parking's on the,
Haven from Franklin to the hospital, you can only
Yeah.
park on the right side of
Yeah.
the street, going up.
Yeah.
Can't park, there's no parking, there's no sidewalk, there's no.
Joe, the last time we had this meeting, you were gonna touch base possibly with the Ridgewood mayor and see what the history was with them working with Valley over the years. And maybe if they had any insights, were they able to give you any?
I'll be honest, I apologize, I didn't follow up on that, but now that it's been brought up twice, I'll follow up to find out what they did.
Yeah, because I don't wanna necessarily call that a dead end, putting pressure on the hospital. Seeing what they can do for us, they got their parking garage. What did Ridgewood do that was so different? Where Valley Hospital never charged their patients or employees anything to park there. And they had a good situation going for a very long time.
You're saying when they were in the downtown?
when they were in Ridgewood. They just moved to Paramus, but they were in Ridgewood for so long, and they had free parking.
I mean, I will just go back, I mean, I will go make that call, and that, let me make a note to myself to do that. The, I will check it out. I do think that everybody's got a different financial profile. You know, it's a newly built garage, they still have to pay it off, stuff like that, but I'll look at it. I don't think that we have a hammer here to force them to do anything. You know, we can't force the hospital, we're not gonna how are we gonna not prevent people from parking in public parking spaces? Other than making a resident-only parking requirement. That we could do, if we can get approval from the state to do it, we could do it. But we can't otherwise, I mean, we actually looked at trying to figure out a way to do it as meter parking, but with, allowing you to get resident. Didn't we talk about that, about doing a meter all the parking on those blocks, but allowing residents to get permits to be able to park there for a minimal amount, basically 24/7.
That's kind of the concept in the memo is.
I said that we couldn't do that because we wouldn't be able to restrict the permits to residents.
Right,
That was the problem. That's why we have to now go to the state. The idea was so this would be it wouldn't be the equivalent because it wouldn't be actually metering, but it would be to limiting it to 3 hours. What are the comments or questions? Yeah.
I wanted to ask, I know it was brought up at the last, I think I mentioned it at the last meeting, because we keep saying that the hospital is nonprofit, but there are many entities within that building that are not nonprofit. MRI is in there, there's blood webs in there, there are other doctors in there. Those are not nonprofit, they're getting paid from somebody, not like. I don't know if they're paying rent to the hospital, or what their deal is, but the hospital's gotta be benefiting from having those are independent.
An organization can be a nonprofit and still make profit. It just doesn't adhere to shareholders. That's all. That's the only difference.
Okay,
I'm just saying that.
well, those places are private practices, they must be getting paid, charge rent. There's gotta be some income, I'm saying, revenue that's coming.
I know, I'm just saying that, this is why it's a dead end. It's a dead end because no matter what, if the hospital was sitting on galleons of money and lighting, cigars with $100 bills, and there's still nothing we could do to force them not to park on the public streets, short of the resident-only parking. Like, I don't think I think the hospital probably is in a financial state that it's not that easy for them to not charge for parking. Because I think if it was all the same to them, I think they wouldn't charge, because they have problems with their employees because they're charging for parking. So those issues do come up with the employees. My point is only to say that as a village, we don't have the sticks to like force them to say, well, your employees have to park on the street, because if we see your employees park on the parking lot, we're gonna give them tickets. We can't give them tickets if they're parking on the street.
But the
And
other
we'll
way
give you
to think
tickets.
about it is that the town can put pressure on them to make their parking lot free.
What pressure do we put on them?
Or cheaper.
That's maybe what the.
I don't make the call, but I'm just saying, what pressure, I mean, I know the tools that are at the disposal of the village. What am I missing that we would be able to force a church or a hospital or anybody who uses parking on the public streets, that we'd be able to say you can't use the parking in the public streets anymore?
It's not saying that they can't use the public parking, it's that we're saying, make this garage free to your employees and patients.
I know in a lot of districts that, when you go for the zoning board and you ask for a planning board, New Jersey, I know, and I'm not familiar with exact codes in New York, but when they say we're expanding the hospital, the towns will go, well, that's great, but we require you to have X amount of spots for your employees. For this, so these spots, if they're charging now, they met their quota of spots, what was it? I think it was one spot, but for one bed, it's two parking spots. I think that was what it was back 10 years ago. I think it was.
Most new construction requires some sort of parking set aside, yes.
Right. So now they're taking away those spots that allowed them to get the expansion. And now they're charging, so now they're back in the street again, plus more because of these outsourced outpatient, facilities that are being run hospital, which are bringing more people here. So now there's more cars coming in. And they're not allowing, there's no space for their employees to park, which was what the original concept was for them to have it in the first place. So we went, we've gone through this. I just don't know what the codes are in New York. Like, a lot of towns say, you have to have X amount of businesses. I think we were charging businesses in town for 2 spots. It's like, I'm just saying.
They built a parking garage. I'm just saying that
By the way,
yeah,
I just wanted to say that I attended all of the planning board meetings, zoning board meetings. When the hospital came with the proposal for the parking garage. And the premise was that this parking garage will alleviate pressure on the local streets.
It's actually made it worse.
What's that?
It's made it worse.
Well, yeah, and
Now
so
they're charging
everybody,
more.
yeah, and everybody assumed, okay, so now the employees will be able to park in the parking garage, but I like having the hospital in the village, and it's great, great asset. But they, in my opinion, they did not follow their commitments in terms of what this hospital parking garage would accomplish. And when you start charging a lot of money to their employees to park there on a monthly basis, it's one thing. But prior to the parking garage, the open lot, you could get a voucher when you, as a hospital patient, when you got services at the hospital, and then you would be not be charged for that. It was $2 for the parking lot if you didn't have one. So I don't think the hospital is acting in good faith towards the village.
That's a
my
good
opinion.
point. And they do have a corresponding liability to help us out here. And I think that avenue is worth exploring, is forcing their hand to make that parking free.
I think if we look at the
Other
minutes,
towns have done it.
other towns have forced hospitals to make their employee parking free.
I don't know exactly, but it's worth exploring that.
I will
possibility.
reach out to I'm just telling you,
There's,
I don't know, you're talking theoretically about a possibility that something could, I'm telling you, the tools at the disposal of the village, in terms of what we are able to do legally, do not allow me to compel a hospital to not charge for parking on its lots to its employees. I'm just not, there literally is nothing I can do. Now, if you're saying, well, what you need to do, Joe, is you need to, that if they want to, make any kind of construction internal and they want to add a new operating theater and they need a building permit, you should condition that building permit on them providing free parking to our bills. I'm telling you that if we tried to do that, we would get sued and we would lose. We can't make an unrelated request any more than I can say to them, well, we want you to pay double your tax bill if we're gonna approve this, that we can't, I don't have those tools.
To that point, but Kyle's point originally is that each business has to provide a certain amount of parking, like how does that
I
interact
guess
with
it
this
doesn't have to
issue?
be free parking,
Yeah.
does it?
Well,
that's for private, I don't
Right.
think
It's an analogy, he's making an analogy to when someone builds new construction that they're required to do a certain number of parking spaces or else pay a fee for that. But I'm just telling you that that's not the situation here. The hospital built parking. But the fact that they're charging for it is the issue. And listen, I'm 100% sympathetic to this. I'm gonna agree with you. I'm frustrated as much as you are. I wish the hospital would do this, but it's not as if I have the capacity to be able, or we have the capacity to be able to compel them to now charge people for parking. I'm sorry, Pascal's wanted to get in here.
Yeah, I just want to know if there is any real appetite, for the hospital to also expand their employee parking lot. Is there no space up the hill that they can't add more parking to their employee parking lot? So that way they have more employees parking there.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah,
Well-
if you're in your speaking with Dr. Geller, I'm wondering, like, I would bring that up because.
Yeah, great point. Anecdotally, the employees don't like to wait for the shuttle. They'd rather park close by on the surrounding streets. And the hospital did entertain the idea of talking to the people who own the graveyard there to expand their footprint there, and they shut them down. And that was when they were in talks with the Board of Ed for NIAC. So yeah, I mean, they just don't want to wait for the shuttles. So I've heard anecdotally from the nurses. Which is
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
But that might also be a pressure point to push because if that will help alleviate parking, then they should be using the shuttle. They should be encouraging employees to do it. And that's free. I mean, they're not charging them.
Most of them are also women, they don't wanna walk at night from the
Yeah.
shuttle. It's you know, it's dark, I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that, but if I was working there, I'd be parking on Haven Court. If I
No,
was
no, I get
paying,
that.
I mean, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
it's closer, it's lit, you know, there's crosswalks and all of that, where it's not like on 9W side.
yeah,
I
and
think
I
it
will
would be a good
say,
idea,
that
but-
on, at least in the evenings on Francis and Sixth, it's not that bad in parking, I park on the streets.
The other thing I wanted to quickly mention to this committee is that because Haven Court is like the alleyway directly to the hospital. It's a very busy street, and on top of that, there's BOCES. And so you have teachers and students that are ripping down Haven Court early to get to class. And we know because we're out there early walking the dog. And they go really fast, so I think it would be a good idea to consider rumble strips on Haven Court. Joe, I was the person who was talking to you about the egress lines earlier this week. Larger egress lines would be helpful, because if you call the police department to come and say, hey, this car is the tires over the egress line. I mean, the police officer's like, I don't want to give this guy a ticket. We tried to call the person who owned the car first. And then came back out and was like, or he rang the door and was like, hey, I don't think I'm gonna write them a ticket. I was like, you do whatever you think is right. I don't know what to tell you. The tires beyond the egress, they're not blocking the driveway, but they're right up on it. And it makes that turn blind. When the turn is blind, and people are ripping up and down, trying to find parking, get to class, or to go to work at the hospital, it really becomes dangerous. We brought this up to multiple, I guess, what would you call them, administrations, different NIAC mayors over the years. It's gotten nowhere. Someone's gonna get hurt. And whose fault is it gonna be? It's gonna be our fault pulling out of the driveway. That's whose fault it's gonna be, legally. But meanwhile, for years, we've been bringing this up and nothing's happened. It's really frustrating.
I had talked to you about your particular situation, which is, you're right on the edge there, right? You Justin?
Yes.
You're right on the edge there, where I think that, given that there's a long line of parking, it's not as big of an issue, but we'll take the ingress egress, I will, that's a separate issue from everything else we're talking about. I think that can be met, that your particular situation, I think, should be addressed. If other people have similar type of situations where it would not dramatic, because I mean, here's the thing, if we do that, we reduce the amount of available parking. If you expand the zone of no parking around each driveway, you reduce the amount of parking, which doesn't help the issue that we've been talking about for the rest of the time. But I did follow up with you, and I'll continue to follow up with you about that. I drove by, I took a picture, I showed it to Andy about what we might be able to do about your particular egress, ingress. You had a question,
Yeah,
comment?
I just want to make a statement that, initially when you're built, the hospital was trying to get the garage pushed through and had approval for the neighbors and stuff. We had meetings with Dr. Gill, and I just want to he was on the record as saying he approves resident only parking at that time. He was on the record to say that the hospital will not stand in the way of.
I don't think they would, because I think the hospital would like very much for their people to use the parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think that they would have a problem with that. I think some of the people that work there might, because they'd be frustrated. So let's go back to the beginning on this, because that was what we really wanted to get feedback on, was the resident only solution is not a magic bullet, and it doesn't come without any kind of negatives, because there would be the complication of, okay, well, what do you do when, you know, you have your mother-in-law's visiting for the week? You're like, what do you do? How do you handle that? She can't park for more than 2 or 3 hours on the street unless we figure out some workaround. So there is that. It would have to cost. Right now, you're able to park for free, but there's fewer spots. If there was a resident-only parking, you'd have to pay something for a permit, but you would have much more spots available to you.
It'd be quieter too. There'd be less cars trying to park there.
There would be fewer people blocking and all the other stuff all the other externalities that are caused by the people parking the street. So let me just ask, I mean, there's 6 of you here that live in the community. If we want, you're all in Haven Court, you're all, not only live in the community, you live on the one block.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that even given the possible, now I think the when I say that you have to pay for something, I think it's gonna, if I said you have to pay $5 a month, you'd be like, ah. If I said it was $50 a month, you'd be like, I don't know if I love that. So I think there's a certain scale there that you have to adapt to. But just general in theory, I mean, you want us to pursue this, that's my guess. To pursue this with the state.
Yeah.
I did, Andy, I'm sorry, I didn't read your online, your write-up, but did you decide which streets we would be exactly pursuing this for? Like front to a certain degree?
So I mean, I will say, first of all, that it would be typical for a village to hire a kind of a consultant who specializes in parking to kind of figure that out. If you look at the hospital, they had a parking study with a voluminous amount of data in it and traffic counts and everything else. So I just want to say I'm afraid to guess at what the best kind of design might be. I think at a minimum, it starts with the streets that are already 8 to 11 and has to look at expansion, because once you regulate that space, it'll push it out to further peripheral streets. But yeah, that's my starting point of thought about it. But I don't think that usually you undertake something like this with a little more quantitative, not just anecdotal evidence about the parking inventory and how often it's fully occupied and sort of the rhythms of that.
But
That's
Andy,
what a parking study would do that.
what you're saying is if you expand the 8 to 11, we just gotta keep in mind of how it does affect BOCES.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm saying the current 8 to 11 is more or less the
Fifth Avenue.
yeah. Yeah, the current 8 to 11 is more or less the footprint, a bare minimum. But I think if you're gonna do a permit system, we would need to go beyond that, because it's gonna push people out into other areas. That's just my thought, but I do believe that an actual study that measures parking occupancy levels and demand would be a nice thing to have.
I mean, also too, we BOCES can actually reach out to South Orange Town and ask them to sit at the bottom of our lot. If there is adult ed students going up and down the street quick, you know, to enforce something, if they would do us a favor for the day, you know, in and out, you know, like they used to, you know, we can call over, you know, for that.
I will
Sure.
say South Orange Town usually does sit there. They're just on Fifth Ave
There
instead.
is a lot,
See, great. Sometimes they're in the
Yeah,
lot, but
yeah.
sometimes they're right at the top of
Tangible
Fifth
to us,
too.
right?
Yeah.
The speed bump on that street, that'll help that.
we usually have, police is usually there,
We need a speed bump.
you know, the cops are usually in it,
I don't.
you know, but it's gonna be. Also, just, I'm sorry, the 30 years that I have, 31 years that I've been associated with that building, there's never been, and there always can be, but there's never been an accident. There's never been hindrance of emergency vehicles. Because even when you look at our lot, the changes that we made enables them to pull in and get to the front of the building right away. They also have a key to the field, but they gotta pull up. So traffic, same thing, we had an engineer look at it just 2 years ago, and you see the changes that we did make, which we gained 10 spaces on the property. But we can't go anymore because the state doesn't allow the zoning of footage from the building to, and then on Fifth Avenue, you have all those electric and gas lines that would cost major money to drop in the ground to put a wall up in 8 spaces. So when you take the economic value of 8 to 16 spaces, it doesn't outweigh a million, 1.4 million to do the job.
You had said earlier that you used to use the St. Anne's parking lot down about, I guess the school parking lot is what you're talking about?
Yeah,
On Jefferson?
we used to rent St. Anne's years ago.
Yeah.
And then we moved to, we took over Neary up in Haverstraw, and we moved out. So we kind of talked with, I forget, Father.
Don't worry about the honorific, but you talked to somebody from St. Anne's, and they said what?
We're actually in the process because we are redoing our evacuation plans and stuff. You know, to meet the new state regulation. So we have the temple down the street as one, and we want to make St. Anne's as another. So we're in, forget his name, I'll remember. But it's a little.
They're not thrilled about giving you use of the space.
I don't think they were thrilled. when
'Cause they don't use it at all.
You know what I mean? Because the school's basically not sitting, but, you know, it was good having us as a tenant for years, because it was full, you know what I mean? Now they don't have us, so now they kind of.
All right.
Looking at us.
Let me wrap up the workshop, by saying that we anticipated we want to make sure that we had a meeting to talk about some of the pros and cons about, a resident-only permit system. But we are planning to go ahead with trying to get that done with the state, so we will start that process, and we'll keep you updated. If you are not on the email list that I have of the people who are interested in the issues, email me at joerand@nyack.gov and I'll add you to the list, so you'll get the emails about these kinds of meetings that we have about this particular issue, all right? Yes,
So if you guys go ahead and do it, I know you don't know, I've spoken to her about this, talking up to the state level. You guys have the luxury of giving this a shot. And if it doesn't work, you can you can basically just say, no, we don't want to do it anymore, but you have the permission to do it in the future.
well, if we went ahead and went through the process of going, we would want to do it.
Right, unless it became a complete mess and then you could, so I just didn't know that if you did it, it's forever and ever and ever.
It is,
It is?
it is.
Okay, all right.
So they used to do 5-year sunsets on them and then they started making them permanent because the need never disappeared for places. So you would, in fact, you might need another law rescinding your parking scheme because they can go on, unless you tell the state specifically you want it for X amount of years.
Right.
Interesting.
The session, depending on what happens.
The balance of a year.
Yeah, so the assembly session starts in January, ends in June, so between that time is when you have the time to put it in.
We gotta establish the record.
Thank you
Yeah.
for doing this. We really appreciate it because it's been years and years and years and nothing's been done and at least something, it's a.
We'll see if we can get this done. We'll see if we can get this done. Yes, I gotta wrap up though, 'cause we gotta start
I have a
regular meeting.
question, and I don't know if I'm gonna get reprimanded here, from anybody, but if this goes through residential parking permits that we have to purchase, would there be a way to make an allowance for groceries to have like, to get fire, I mean, I feel bad.
It's
They
a
do-
question that occurred to me
they've
as
done
well
their
as to
due
whether,
diligence,
we
yeah.
also, I mean, yes, you're asking, I don't know whether, I think we would have the authority to be able to give residential permits based on our own criteria, right?
She asked a great question. I don't have the answer to it.
I
Because
think your point is well taken, that we're sort of saying, well, the hospital has the capacity, so if we did this, the hospital workers would have a place to park. They just have to work out with the hospital what the charge is gonna be.
Right.
BOCES doesn't have that luxury because they don't have a parking lot, or at least they have a parking lot, but they're at capacity of their
They've done
parking lot.
A lot to expand their footprint.
Yeah, I don't think, I think that would be asking a lot. That's why I asked about the St. Anne's parking, and whether that would be a potential overflow space for you. But right now, it's not being used, but right now I think they're just letting it lie. All right, well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. You don't have to stick around for the regular meeting. Unless you want to know about the audited voucher summary and go over that, which is entirely fine. Otherwise, we'll give about a minute to everybody to reset, and then we'll get back to the next meeting. And Justin, I'll be in touch with you about the other thing you asked me
That
about.
sounds good.
All right?
Thanks for taking the time to be.
No, you got it.
thanks for coming out, Tim. Appreciate it. See you later, right? See you.
Take care.
See you all later.
Thank you.
Let's try, let me start because I gotta start this. Yes.
Oh, also,
Yeah,
Andy,
I
I
understand.
completely forgot.
Thank you, Justin.
She's fine, sign off. Wake up for 15 minutes.
Pick up some?
Yeah. She's cool with it. Give them the dates.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they
Oh,
were fine with it
thank
either
you.
way,
We met,
but I forgot to tell you.
Yes,
Yes, yes, yes. We met again, so I'm telling you.
Joe Carlin?
All right.
Okay.
Pickup zone on Broadway,
Yeah.
where there's already parking space.
Yeah.
All right, just make it dedicated.
Lee Taylor,
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Andy.
Hi, Andy. Oh, Andy,
Right.
we spoke. we're
Yeah,
texting.
thanks for coming out tonight.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Hi.
Play the village clerk. Nice to meet you. Sorry for your loss.
I didn't know what.
Oh, have a seat. Is there anyone else here with you?
So that's really interesting question.
Sister is.
If we had.
Sister, okay, hello.
Yeah.
All right, I will, yeah, you're gonna go right up top.
That's
I'm
the
gonna open the
thing.
meeting and then I'm gonna bring you up and we'll
They
take a
can
picture
have
of
its
your.
residence
And we'll hand you the certificate, and then if you want to say that,
Yeah.
I can say.
Like a resident, if someone has to.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. I mean, look, technically, they would probably use the address,
They didn't say it.
but you know, it's not a residential address, it's a business address.
So it's really only available.
Residence,
Linda,
yeah.
Yes.
let's remind everybody, if you're here to make a public comment, make sure you sign up on
Wait,
the
is this this?
yellow sheet up on the podium. We'll have an opportunity for
What the
public comment
hell?
after a couple of
Reason.
presentations, so it won't be very long until we get to it.
M3.
There's no sheet up there? Is that a sheet? What's the color of that sheet?
It's white.
Oh, it's white. I'm sorry, it's white, not yellow.
It has a yellow section.
There is a
So
sheet though.
M3, just to get it to.
There is some yellow on the sheet. That's what I was.
All amount of yellow.
Wait, look at. Did you want to
I did not want to.
know? Yeah, I just.
No mayonnaise in it.
My bad, my mom.
So how do we get it to? I had the on and off. It's gone. Yeah. Okay.
Everybody want to reset.
And three, no.
It'll be 2 minutes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I might need a refresher. Start stressing. Can we? Ask An's, St. Anne's to confirm it's for all people.
All right,
To
so make sure you sign up for public comment if you want to make
Permit
public
to
comment.
Or residents to park. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be a long one.
French pronunciation. Is that okay?
You're bringing them up first. And have us on the.
I prefer when people say something.
Okay, then I will do
Like,
that.
that is how it's supposed to.
Okay, that's what I thought, and that's why.
No, no, yeah, I
But then I
just.
heard you say it, I'm like, oh my god, have I been like
No.
pretentiously?
I was gonna say, just put hedges.
This whole time.
You'll get up here with that.
Even though you say it like, pretty, like, people don't get it, so that's why. I
You
say
know, they've been
it.
doing
Yeah,
good.
If anyone wishes to speak, just please sign in.
Yeah.
All right,
Everyone
I
good?
should have told Manny to stick around for this.
all right, should we get started? Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Randall, Mayor of Nyack. This is the Village Board of Trustees meeting of January 30th, 2025. It's a little after 7:30 PM. We're a little bit late because we were finishing up a hour-long workshop we had about parking issues in the the Midland neighborhood. Our agenda is relatively light. There's nothing, we have a couple of requests of people, some communications, we have some ministerial things to take care of. But I know we have public comment, we have people that are interested, they want to talk about the issues relating to the public safety initiative that was taken by the building department in this past fall, and that's still ongoing. So if you do want to make public comment, make sure you sign up top. At the top of the meeting, we are going to give a few presentations to some deserving people. So we'll go to that in a minute. I just want to take a moment to thank the Nyack NAACP as well as Pilgrim Baptist Church for the MLK ceremony they had a week ago Monday, which was typically well attended and inspirational. There was also, I want to thank Bill Batson, who that same day did a march for service march where we walked around the downtown, hitting areas that are going to be implicated in some of the executive orders that were made last week. And then we went to, there was a collection made of food and clothing, which was today donated to
Prieto Faro.
Prieto Faro. So that we had stored it here and then it was picked up here and taken there today. All right, just want to make those points. We have, if you follow the agenda, we'll have a moment after we do the some presentations. We're going to have comments from the Village Board of Trustees, and that's when we will have opportunity for public comment. Let me get to these, let me start. So periodically at these meetings, we do have, we give recognition to members of the community for either distinguished service or some contribution they made to the community. We've done this at meetings probably a couple times in the past couple of months. I will say this, that we've not had an opportunity to give a certificate of merit that is quite as for such a as remarkable person as Miles Taylor, who we're giving a certificate of merit to tonight. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to present it to his wife and his sister-in-law. This certificate of merit is awarded posthumously to Miles E. Taylor in recognition of his unwavering dedication to his family, community, and service. For over 2 decades, Miles passionately coached and mentored athletes, earning a place in the Nyack Coaching Hall of Fame. His commitment to the Nyack Fire Department, where he proudly served as chief, and his lifelong devotion to helping others are a testament to his character. He will be forever remembered for his generosity, leadership, and the joy he brought to all who knew him. He made an unbelievable contribution to the village of Nyack, and particularly the Nyack Fire Department. We will be forever grateful. He was lost to us recently. There was a stirring memorial service and funeral service at Oak Tree Cemetery, Oak Hill Cemetery a few weeks ago, and I wanted to just go up and present this certificate to his wife. So please join me. The certificate of merit to Miles E. Taylor. Appreciate you doing it. I would just say this, that anybody who is involved in public service or in community service knows that when one spouse is involved to that degree, the degree that Miles was, it's not just commitment by him, it's commitment by his entire family, because there's the nights that he's away. There's the days he's called away from dinner because the bell rings. There's all the days that he spent serving others. And so we can't forget the contribution made also by the families that are involved. So I would like to take a moment of silence to remember him. So please join me in a moment of silence to remember him and to express thanks and to him and to his family. Thank you. And please, a round of applause for the family for. Andy, can we get you might get a picture and the board rally around like we do? You wanna come around? Come down. You want to take a picture?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody does that. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you asked me. Yeah.
My husband Miles was born and raised in this town, 60 years. And I'm sorry. He loved this town more than anything. Everything was nice. He will forever be a Nyack Indian. Sorry for those of you that think it's not right. But he gave everything he had to this town. He was with the Nyack Fire Department for 44 years. And
from the age of 16, he dedicated his life to this town, fire department. And they definitely paid him back in tribute during his service, and I wanted to thank the mayor because you were there, and it really meant a lot to my family. So thank you, everybody, for making this town such an amazing town to live in. Thank you.
We also have, several certificates, not certificates of merit, but this is to thank people who were involved. As you may know, in the last December, we tried to do a promotion to try to create some holiday spirit within the village of Nye. And so we had two decoration contests, one for the local downtown businesses and one for the residents. And we had two prizes. One was by a by a panel of judges, and then one was by a popular vote. And we do have, I have here the decorate the awards for the people that were winning, along with for the two businesses. It's a $250 gift card. It was supposed to be the hotel night, but they don't have hotel gift cards, but now it's a gift card to the restaurants at the hotel night. And for the residents, it's a gift card to the business that won the business contest. So let me start with the, I know there's people here from Crystal Rocks. From Crystal Rocks was our first prize of the popular vote for the business downtown contest. Are they here?
Yeah.
Oh, there we are. Well, yes, gather around this way. Right, like on the thing. Yeah, in the middle. Come on up, come on. I'll give it to you.
It's like,
This is for you.
Thank you.
Don't use that, that's like cash.
also like that.
Yes. You can plan.
We're planking
Is it on?
Some of that in Westchester.
Right, that's down.
Not too close.
Yeah.
Age shows.
Camera has 15 pounds and there's two cameras there, just so you know.
All right, thank
Thank you very much. Our other business award winner,
I know.
who's the muscle staff, yeah, a couple more. The business award winner, this is for the judges contest, the winner was the quilt tree. Also, it's a beautiful part of the block right there. I don't think anyone's here from the quilt tree, is there? Not coming from the quilt tree, okay. So we have a gift card for them. I'll make sure I'll bring it over to their store later today. Okay. For the public choice of the residential contest, which was named for Levi Burnett, who's a resident who for many years decorated his home the pictures I've seen make it that it was truly a exceptional bit of light and color and more light and more color. So the award is named in his honor. And our award winner for the public choice is Matt Coke and Bobby Belfry. Coke and Belfry, I don't see either of them. Ah, they couldn't make it. Well, I'll make sure they get they have a prize. Their prize is they were the public choice, so their prize is the Crystals and Rocks gift card. And then I know they're here. The winner of the judge's choice and also second place in the people's choice, and it was a very close vote, is the Petuto family. I know the Petuto family is here. And we get the gift card. Oh, wait. They love me now. Come on, they had to live in that house. Who could sleep with all those lights? It's a gift card.
If anyone wants to pay the bill, but if you want.
We have solar. If you did not see their light show, it was truly spectacular. There was a peace sign. There was
We really need to be in this beautiful family.
Yeah, that'll be all right. You didn't want that phone.
Are you in the phone? Are you in the phone?
No, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good.
All right, smile. Thank you. Thank you. And we also, just, I mentioned the gift cards, we got a gift card for them from the quilt shop, Quiltry. There's, the other gift card came from Crystals and Rocks, they were the winner of the contest. We also did, get, we bought the gift cards for the Hotel Night, but we got donated to us, which you got, the top, I think the runners up, and you were runners up in the public choice, and Coke and Belfry were the runners up on the judge's choice. And so you both got one of these, and what it is, it's 2 tickets to see Elma Theater. So that's in your envelope as well. And our other second place finishers, so we were able to get, this was donated by Elma Theater. They donated 2 tickets for other second place finishers, which was Prohibition River and Grace's Thrift Shop. So our congratulations to them. Our thanks to everybody. Please round of applause. For the holiday season, it was a really, the village looked wonderful during the holidays, with everybody sprucing up. All right, and thanks for organizing. It was my pleasure. Gotcha. Thank you for the work you did, because that really was an extraordinary. Now you have to top it next year. I don't know what you're gonna do next year.
I'm already planning.
He's already thinking about it. I'll tell you one quick funny story about Jeremy, that when we did the judges tour, one of our judges was Gary, I'm mispronouncing it, but he's the North Pole Airport guy. And he was fantastic and he was wonderful. And we were all judging all the displays by the color and the light and the creativity. And he was judging them based on how well that they grounded their wires and how safe they were. And he commented specifically on you that yours looked professional in the way that you protected against electrocution. So we appreciate that as well. Well done.
25,000 amps.
We did walk up to look at it, so I'm glad that it was the ground wasn't electrified, so that was good. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right, we're now to the point that comments from the village board of trustees on any matter. We'll start on my left, Joe.
Yeah, I don't have them.
No, nothing today, okay.
Yeah, no.
All right, so we'll, if we have things to comment on, we'll comment on as they come along. All right, public comment, let me move the thing back.
Right.
I got it.
Be careful, my phone.
Now, please use the microphone just because it's tough for us. We have a heating system behind us that's very loud. It's on. And please speak into the mic.
Are we doing a 2-minute?
2 minutes. People have a tendency sometimes with the mic to do this, where they're talking and then they're waving their arms and they're talking. You can't only use them when the mic. So please speak into the mic, because it's helpful for everybody behind you to be able to hear you as well as us because of the heating system that's behind us.
Ready?
Linda, yes.
James Dawson House.
James.
Hello.
Okay. Hi, James.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, good evening, trustees. Yes, I'm here to talk about the hedges. My name is James Dawson Hollis. I live at 240 North Broadway. It's the house that's opposite Pretty Penny. I want to address the notice to remedy regarding the removal of my front hedge on the corner of North Broadway and Tolman Avenue. And I understand the importance of safety, but at the same time, I have some real concerns about this and how it affects my family. So I would like to lay those out for you and for your consideration. First of all, the tone of the notice. I felt that the notice itself was slightly intimidating. My conversations since then with people in the building department, they've come across a little smug, to be frank. I didn't really enjoy it, and it didn't come across very well. You know, it presented itself rather as a kind of an order, rather than a sort of a starting point for a discussion. And I really do think we do need to have a discussion about this, and we really need to have not a one-size-fits-all kind of approach to this and a mandate. We need to look at individual properties and we need to evaluate them. I mean, there's a lot of things we need to consider. Okay, some of the things I would like you to consider. this is the impact on my property. The hedge is a vital privacy barrier from the street noise, pedestrians and vehicles. And, you know, I've walked down Hart Place and I know the mayor himself is a big fan of privacy. There's a giant hedge and he has some nice green giants and a 6-foot hedge. So I'm sure you can sympathize. We're right on the corner and I know you even liked our house 10 years ago. So I'm sure you wouldn't really be a fan.
I did like it. I like your house today too. You're saying I liked it when I looked at it when it was on for sale. Yeah. I like your house just fine just now.
Yeah, I like it just the way it is too. Safety, it protects our pets. 30 inches is ridiculous. It's like a box of cress. You know, you can sort of step a sparrow can step over it. It doesn't do anything. Okay. And I'm sure if that's my time.
No, I'll let you finish up.
Okay, thanks.
I know you've.
It affects my property value significantly, in my opinion. And it's also a big issue for the neighborhood aesthetic, right? It's a historical house. It really doesn't fit the style of the neighborhood. You can see what's happened across the street when, you know, the owners across the street preemptively cut their hedge thanks to their landscaper. And I certainly know that guy, Franklin, would not have wanted his privacy invaded in that fashion. And he would not have liked that at all. So unfortunately, he's not there to kind of comment on that. But it is really inconsistent. 30 inches is very inconsistent. It's very low. Totally not suitable. So there's historical context. This has not been enforced. 10 years we lived there, and I've spoken to other people in this group, never been enforced, at least for 30 years. And our understanding was that when we came here, that it was grandfathered in. So I would request that we have a proper evaluation of the situation, case by case. I'd like to see the traffic data if it's a safety issue, okay? Because I don't believe there's been one single crash on that corner as a result of that. And also I would say that since the neighbors have cut their corner down, and now there is a view on the northbound side of the street, it actually does impact even our side, because now you have a view to the oncoming traffic. And the other issue, which is a massive thing that I'm sure you'll hear about tonight, is parking. It's like you can't ask us to cut down our hedges and then have the parking there, because to be honest, the parking blocks the view onto the street more than actually the hedge. So we need this to be looked at individually. You guys, you know, we elect you. We want you to take this seriously. I will fight this completely. There's no way I'm putting it down. So I'm just going to say that right now.
Well, thanks. Let me just say, let's engage for a second. I will say this. You can't on the one hand say, I want to start a discussion, then say, I'm never going to cut it down. You have to be open to the possibility that there might be safety issues that might trump the issues that you've raised as being, at least have the open mind on.
Well, I'll be open to it, but you have.
Okay, that's all I ask.
But you have to do the work, and the work.
I'm just
saying.
saying.
Traffic, you show me the issue, you show me the accidents.
James,
okay,
I'm only saying that if you want to have a dialogue, we'll have a dialogue. You can't go into any kind of dialogue by saying that I'm absolutely not going to do the thing that you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Fair enough. Now, the other point I wanted to make was that I wanted to tell you that I agree with you about the tone of the initial notice that was given. It was far too formal and a little harsh, and I can't speak to your experience talking to the department people. Would you say you have an unpleasant experience talking to them personally about it? Okay, but I will say about the notices, that was not what we had. That was not. I'm sorry that came across the way it did, and that was our responsibility for not being on top of what was actually being communicated to the residents. So that should have been communicated differently to do more of a starting discussion rather than scare the hell out of you. So I agree with that. I also think that we are looking at the rules themselves to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to preserve public safety, but not any more than is necessary to preserve public safety, because I think that you're right about the aesthetic issues that are involved here and that we should be cognizant of them. I'm not saying that they will end up being which set of values will end up being predominating, but I am saying that they should all be considered as part of the overall discussion. So I will give you that, and I do think that these should be considered for some of these difficult cases on a case-by-case basis. So I will assure you that we will engage with you on it, and we'll be looking at each of these things with the building department for the ones that are in question.
So
Okay.
what I would ask is, I heard from someone from the department yesterday, I think, what is that? I heard from you yesterday or the day before, and so I would say is, it was framed as you reached out to us, which I did when I received the notice, And now you need to tell me what you're going to do, and are you going to apply for variance? That's not a discussion, okay? He's just demanding a date. That doesn't work for me. I told him, you know what, I'm gonna get in touch with you when I've decided to get in touch with you. Okay, we settled on a date, but what you're talking about is a lot of things that need to happen before even the building department. They should say it's on pause, okay, we're reviewing it. It needs to be case by case.
You haven't gotten anything formal from the department since that
He
initial.
called me and he asked me what my plan was and whether I
Okay.
was cutting the hedge down. And I told him, you know, that's my business.
All right, well,
You
that's,
know, there's lots of other people who'll probably tell you exactly the same thing, so maybe I'll pass the mic. and you
yeah,
can hear
who's
the same
next?
thing
Who's next?
Elizabeth.
Hi, I've lived here, is it working?
Yeah, please give your name and,
I'm Elizabeth Turk, lived on First Avenue in Marion for 32 years. I've never seen an accident there. I actually haven't gotten a citation to take my hedge down yet. I think because they were doing road work there for the last couple of weeks. But I know I'm going to get one because my whole neighborhood, whether you have to root down a one-way or not, they're demanding to take their hedges down. When you come down Marion and you're on the side of my house and you have to look down first to see if any traffic's coming, my hedges aren't in the way, the cars are. Everyone on my block will tell you it's the cars. And I really don't want to take my hedges down. I bought the house with the hedges were there before, way before I bought the house. And we have dogs, we need the hedges. And it would look silly. I have a big, nice front gate and it's gonna look bad with no hedges there.
just give me the address, I'm looking it up just to see the corner.
88 First Avenue, corner of Marion and First.
So Marion
Comes this way,
comes into First Avenue,
yeah, and you have to look this way.
and then you have to look to the left.
You have to look to the left, but you pull up to the line.
Yeah.
And then you have to pull up even more to look past the cars.
Right,
And you still can't see past the cars.
right. So you're on you're on the corner, you're looking to the right, that's your house.
I'm on the east side.
On the east
Yes, the east side of it's sort of the pale yellow house.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, when you go down Third, if you're coming down Marion and come down, well, you come down Third past Marion, there should be a stop sign at Marion and Third for people coming east. Because they come flying down, and when you're coming down Marion, that's where all the accidents have been.
So basically, first is a one-way street,
Yes.
so you're really talking about the ability of people to see when they come down, going south on Marion, being able to see
You have to look to the left.
the
down
left-hand
first.
side.
But you can't, my hedges are not in the way. You have to pull up more to see past all the cars. You should get rid of the first two parking spots there.
Also a sidewalk there, which
Yeah,
gives you more distance.
right.
Thank you for bringing it to our
Okay,
attention.
and also, I just want to say Fourth Avenue, you're making people cut hedges down there too. Fourth Avenue, that little strip between Marion and Broadway is a two-way street. That's where people almost get in accidents. It should be a one-way going west.
Fourth
And-
Avenue,
Yeah, Fourth Avenue, where.
It's a little tiny
It's a
strip of
small
Fourth
street.
Avenue.
yeah, it doesn't connect up past Marion.
Everybody
Yeah.
parks on the right, and if you're going west and someone's coming the other
You
way,
can come in,
They
there's not
almost
enough
hit
space for two cars to go, so you end up having to collide or someone has to stop and move out of the way.
So it should be a one-way going which way?
I think it should be one way
West.
going, yeah,
Going
it's
into
way
the
too
neighborhood.
narrow.
yeah, going, yeah.
Third goes east and Fourth should go west.
All right,
And then,
Yeah,
I
that
one
makes
more
sense.
thing, Third
Sure.
Avenue.
okay.
If
We
you're
do the whole
going-
neighborhood now, Third Avenue.
East down Third Avenue.
You want the stop sign?
No,
Oh.
if, yeah, I do. But then if you keep going and right when you hit Broadway. You can't, there's no hedges there to look past when you look to the left. But that's where I usually almost get in an accident, because all the parked cars, you can't see past them. So it has nothing to do with any hedges.
There's a pretty big setback there on Broadway.
No, it's
It's
very
bad.
dangerous
I've
there.
gone into a ton of near misses.
Yes,
Um,
I've
that's
seen
also the same
accidents there.
area where there is good.
If you wanna make
kids-
the,
concern as well.
Right.
Right.
If you're gonna make
You wanna make
a
it-
left or right, you
Left or-
can't see over the cars.
That's true.
Yeah.
talking about
I would
Fourth?
say that,
You
yeah.
said it's a short.
Huh?
She talking about
Yeah.
Ford?
It's on the
Third.
third now.
Third and
I-
Broadway.
I
right
think like
corner
you
of my
said,
house.
every corner should be addressed individually and see how many accidents were there. What's in the way besides your hedges? It's just, you just don't go around chopping everyone's hedges down
There should be.
because they live on a corner,
Yeah.
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Next one.
Robert?
I'm Robert Solarski, I live at 121 North Broadway. I've been a homeowner and business owner in Nyack for 30 years. I'm not going to reiterate what the two previous speakers have said. But I will say that I do respectfully request that all the notices to remedy be suspended pending the definition of, or pending the provision of definitive proof by the village that the hedges in question have been the cause of automobile accidents. And that if such proof is not provided to the owners of the properties, that those notices should be formally withdrawn. I also, if such proof can be provided, I would also request that the village remove all parking spaces within same 30 feet of every street corner and every driveway opening onto a street throughout the village to clear sightlines for reasons of safety, having been flipped and involved in accidents coming out of my own driveway by people flying up and down the street. Can't see because there's cars on the corner of where my house is located, the corner of Fourth and Broadway. Take down the hedges again, the cars are gonna be in the way. I do believe that the same effect that the village is seeking could be achieved by adding stop signs, noting that there are no stop signs on North Broadway between Castle Heights and Upper Nyack and Main Street in Nyack. So you get people getting up a good head of speed coming down North Broadway. I've seen many, many people going 40, 50 miles an hour headed into and out of Nyack. And if there were a stop sign at Fifth, at Fourth, maybe even a few places at Sixth, to calm the traffic, I think it would have the same effect and would also preserve the look of the village. Finally, I request that a public hearing be held on this matter rather than some sort of research done by the building department behind closed doors.
Public hearing would be for if we're thinking of changing, every meeting we have is a public meeting.
Okay, well,
If we were thinking of changing the law, we would have a public hearing to change the law.
I'd like it to be conducted transparently is my point,
Okay,
all right? And I also would request that in the unlikely event that the village decides to proceed with this, that they be the ones to bear the cost of trimming the hedges. I know my hedge predates our residency there by at least 20 years. The hedge has been in place for almost as long as I've been alive. So it ain't cheap. All right?
okay.
What's your address, Bob?
121.
121 North Broadway.
North Broadway.
Jennifer?
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Eno, Robert Solarski's wife. I'm from 121 North Broadway. I would like to also comment on the notification. I did think it was very threatening. I did feel that the person who came to my home and stood in my doorway was, well, polite, was very threatening and told me by the 17th, this had to be taken care of, or the village would come and do it. I really think threatening a person in their own home and threatening my property would not occur in any way. There have been 3 accidents in front of my house at the corner of 4th and Broadway. All of them have been caused by cars speeding southbound on Broadway, hitting drivers trying to pull out of 4th, spinning cars around, in one event, right into the house across the street. Those are the 3 accidents that I know of in the 30 years I've lived there. Never once has my hedge been involved. I will also say that I agree with everyone else. When you pull up, and has anyone here on this board even walked around and looked at this issue? Because right now, all the privet has no leaves. So you can pull up in your car, look through people's privets and see if you would then see clearly down the roadway. You could go and verify this yourself. I drove around myself today. You have to pull into the intersection to look past the cars in every single case. You're gonna have to get rid of a lot of parking. And finally, listen, has anybody else been through New England? Because every town in New England has privet. Every town has gorgeous hedges. You drive through the communities. It's beautiful. What you're telling me is that you're gonna take our community that has empty storefronts all over the place and then make a roller coaster ride down Broadway of hedges going up and down and up and down, which is gonna look absolutely absurd. In every town in New England where they have privet and hedge, they lowered their speed limit to 20 and they have numerous stop signs at every intersection. Slow the traffic down if it's a matter of safety. And in closing, I'm just gonna say too, you cut our hedges down, what are you doing about the deer? Because if you wanna talk about my health and my safety, you are taking away my barrier, the deer entering my yard. I know you've got a fortress built on your property, Mr. Rand, and I'm just saying, I'm sure you have no deer, but it's a huge problem in this village. They cause accidents, they bring disease. You take that down, they're just walking right in my yard. What are you gonna do about that? Thank you.
Joni.
Hi, Joni Olson, 175 North Broadway, corner of Tallman Place, North Broadway. I got a summons about, I'm in that home 50 years. I got a summons about 25 years ago, so long ago, I don't know. That my hedges was a safety issue. I have had a business in Bergen County and I left Nyack every day and went to work. So I wasn't going to, I did what I was told. If you go to my home now, you see my hedges are on the corner. They've been like that for 30 years. Every spring, my landscaper trims them, keeps them at a certain height. Now, I went through a whole thing with the inspector that was walking the street and gave me a notice. And I explained to him that you can obviously see I do my hedges. I keep them because someone was complaining it was a safety issue. And I was not willing to have an accident happen outside my house. So the issue for me is not the hedges because I'm not going to let them grow up all of a sudden. I'm going to keep them that way. It was an issue with him that they were too high. He wants 30 inches, mine are maybe 30, 36, 40, I don't even know. We had, well, it wasn't even an argument because that's not how you get what you want by arguing about it. I told him you cannot cut taxes, evergreens now. You can't do it. Can't do it in the dead of winter. I called my landscaper. I talked to him. He said, no, you can't cut the hedges now. I was willing to get a ticket and stand in front of Rob Noble and plead my case. I didn't care. I was not going to ruin thousands of dollars worth of evergreen hedges to satisfy the summit or whatever the notice was. The issue for me is not the hedges, anyone's hedges. All that does is block the sidewalk. And obviously, anybody that goes to the corner of the side, on the sidewalk, if they have a half a brain, they're gonna look in all directions. It's the cars that you cannot see over, not the hedges. Hedges have nothing to do with it. It's the cars. You come down Fifth Avenue, I have to crawl. You make the left on Fifth and North Broadway. I'm at the first house on Tallman. I have to crawl into the street. I cannot see over the cars. To the right, I could see clearly because there's no cars parking. So the issue is the cars. There's too many cars on the streets. That's the issue. So that's all I have to say. It's not the hedges. It's the cars.
Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
All right, is there any other public comment while we're on this topic? All right, we have agenda to get to. It is, the public hearing was supposed to start after 8, is that right?
Whatever time.
8 o'clock, okay, so it's after 8 o'clock, so can I get a motion to open the public hearing on the regulated and restricted spaces reserved for electric vehicles?
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, we're now in a public hearing about the regulating, basically, it's a public hearing on legislation that would mandate that the electric charging spots that we have in the village would be reserved for electric vehicles only. You would not be able to park there if you had a non-electric vehicle. That's the legislation we have that we're considering right now. This is an opportunity for the public to weigh in on that if you have any objections to it. We'll allow 2 minutes of public comment for anybody that wants to comment on this issue. If you do, just raise your hand and come on up. Comment from the Board of Trustees.
How many spaces are we talking about?
It's 8.
Yeah, we have, let me think, 2 by Veterans Park and 4 down here in the marina.
I thought we had 4 and 4.
We have 4.
It is 4, you're right, might be 4. You're right, it's 4, sorry.
4 and 4.
Yes, 4 and 4.
And 4 down.
Right, yeah.
You note the law does not say that you have to be actively charging, because there are times when people will set up charging at 10 o'clock at night and they're not going to move the car at midnight, but normal parking rules would apply then for them at 10 a.m. if they're not actively charging.
Yeah, my suggestion is that we not both meter and sell electricity to people. So if you have an EV and you're parked there charging, you don't have to pay the parking meter fee that typically you would pay for that lot.
Okay.
How about if the car is connected? Cable in.
If it's an electric car, it's gotta be connected. You can't just park there and not charge.
You have to be connected. It has to be plugged in order to park there at all. The question is it, could someone go there, park, plug in, and then there's a way for them to be able to check that it's actually actively charging.
I suppose you could try to, yeah.
There is, you can tell that. You can
Yes.
tell whether the meters.
Yeah, I could plug my car in and simply not start the charge and make it look like I'm charging when I'm not.
Say
It's
that
a fairly,
$1 an hour.
fairly marginal case, I think.
Okay.
So like, say I were to plug my car, and it's like, plug it into my gas.
If you just stick the cord through your window and roll it up, is that good?
Just asking for practical purposes.
You would get a ticket. Yes,
Fair.
under this law, you would get a ticket for doing it. Any other comments or questions about the law? Yes, please.
It's fine that those people are using that street, that they can only use it for an hour and a half.
It does. They only get parked there while it's actively charging. Now, if they've been charging and it's, if the car sits there for 8 hours, they're gonna get a ticket. Because if they're there during the meter day. If it's overnight, then they would be okay until 10 a.m. Because a lot of people park, I mean, we want them to charge at night. We want them to plug in and.
What about
Yeah,
from 3 to 6?
3 to 6 in the morning, if they're parked in the spot, they're okay.
You're okay, in the spot.
In the spot,
Right.
yeah, they have to be parked. This is all only about the spot. Any other comments or questions? All right, motion to close the public comment.
Motion.
All in favor of closing, not public comment, or close the public hearing. Motion second, all in favor of closing the public hearing? All right, that is closed. We're gonna take that up at our next meeting. We'll take up the legislation to vote up or down.
No, it's
Oh,
actually,
we're on today?
I made it for tonight.
I thought we had to wait after the public hearing.
Yeah.
We can do it right after the public hearing?
Yeah.
We just never do.
You had your public hearing.
Do we?
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
Sometimes.
It's been,
On
I guess
easy
the new year,
ones.
I'm fuzzy.
If it's an easy one, I just throw it in there.
Okay. All right, can I also, action item number 6, we have to adopt the minutes for December 12th and January 6th, both of those meetings. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, let's take them separately. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes for December 12th? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Can I get a motion to adopt January 6th?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The minutes are adopted. Our action item 7.1, resolution 25-6, accepting the audited voucher summary for pay our bills. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. 25-6 carries unanimously. Motion 25-7. To add, this is to add the parking spaces designated reserved for parking vehicles only, what we just talked about at the public hearing. Can I get the legislation on the table?
Motion.
Second.
Any comments or question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Resolution 25-8, a resolution to amend the village fee schedule to set the amount of payment in lieu of providing a required off-street accessory parking space. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
Comments or questions?
Yeah, I don't understand this, it's the same amount,
We never had an amount. There was no amount ever stated. That's the reason.
all of it was not stated.
It was determined to be 22,000, but it was never put into the, am I right about this? It was never put into the,
2005, it says.
to the village fee
Let's
schedule.
just say it was used in 2005. We were not able to find a village board resolution setting the fee in that period of time. And since we couldn't find a resolution setting it, and our local law requires us to set it by resolution, we thought it'd be a good idea to just do it. Because as development projects come along and this issue comes up, they need to know how much they need to pay.
Is that amount sufficient? I mean, what the?
In the memo, that accompanied it, they give the amounts for various other jurisdictions, and it's a commensurate with what is charged. You know, it's actually more than it's charged in a lot of places, and less in a couple, but it's
Kind of in the
pretty,
middle.
it's pretty, Bob thought that it was appropriate for the cost of otherwise doing the cost of doing a parking spot. That it was an appropriate fee.
What, where does the money go to? Does it go to the general fund?
General fund.
And, how many, was there an estimate? In view of potential building permits and so forth, how much will be, requested?
All I know is the fee hasn't been used since 2005 to the best of the building department's ability. It hasn't been used in a long time, but there are, I think, at least 2 projects in the pipeline that may need it. And so it's good to have the fee in place. I don't know how many, usually it's like just a couple of spots that they need.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then 25-9 resolution appointing Taylor Light to the planning board as an alternative member. Can I get on the table?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service, Taylor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We have another opportunity now, number 8 for public comment. We just finished public comment a few minutes ago. I don't know if there's anybody else that wants to speak. All right, department reports. We were supposed to have a meeting this week with the Orangetown Police Department, but we had a mix up with the date. So we're hoping to make it up for next week. Whatever we do, we'll issue we'll email an update to the board, and we'll talk about it at the next meeting publicly about what we talk about. We did want to discuss with them the status of what's going on in the Mora Park, as well as the status of the SLA complaint that was made regarding Cards Plus store. And was there else that we want to discuss with them specifically?
Can I request that you discuss with them my?
Yes, we talked, that was in the context of the Cards Plus. We're parking a police vehicle in front of Cards Plus. We will raise that with them again, yes.
Anything on ice in Nyack and if they're doing anything about it,
Okay.
or if they know anything about it.
Okay. Okay, I'll make sure we bring that up, and I'll copy you in on that. So what else? Do we have a village attorney report, public report?
No, but listen, I asked the 2 additional resolutions be added, or are we?
Oh, sorry, right. I gotta find this. Hold on, I gotta find it.
Do we have those resolutions?
I forwarded. Hold on, yeah, no. No, let me look at them actually. Thanks for the reminder. I have a
You
pile.
emailed this to us?
Hold on.
No, I saw the well.
No.
Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't see it as a resolution, I saw it as. All right, so let's move on, the village. All right, let's go to old business. I'll just give a recap of the community forum on public safety that we had on January 13th. That was a discussion regarding the quality of life issues downtown with some of the issues that have happened with the square and the park. We gave an update. We did have representation there from the police department and representation there from some of the social service agencies, as well as the county department, to talk about what their approach has been and how things have been going. The hope is that within a few weeks, we will have appointed someone to be the code enforcement officer for quality of life issues, who will essentially be a public safety patrol person for downtown and for the waterfront. We're in the process of making an offer to somebody for that position. Hopefully that will be filled soon, and that person will start. And when that person starts, we'll take a look at some of the restrictions that we put onto the use of the square. So that meeting went very well. We had a workshop earlier today, this is 10.2, on a parking policy in the hospital zone, and what came out of that meeting is kind of a determination for us to apply for to the state for the allowance of resident-only parking by permit in the area around surrounding the hospital. We had a number of people who came from the community to talk about it, and it's not a magic bullet, and it does come with certain annoyances of allowing resident-only parking, but they were in favor of us pursuing that avenue. So with that said, so that's 10 is knocked off. We want to go over these resolutions, Andy. So resolution, this would be 25 10
Just FYI,
for the settlement.
Right.
Andy emailed these to everyone yesterday. So I'm not gonna resend them. You all have them in. your
Okay.
email.
All right, so 2510
This is
is the settlement, and then 2511 will be the boat launch fee.
Right.
2510 is just a resolution of the board to authorize a settlement of a pending lawsuit in New York State Supreme Court. Can I get on the table?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
I have a basic one. So basically, the zoning board of appeals, did not, renew or, resisted renewing the,
It was the building inspector,
the building inspector, okay.
which was then appealed to the zoning board of appeals. The zoning board of appeals found against the property owner, who then filed a lawsuit. And that's where we stand. We're now settling that lawsuit.
Okay, so it was never brought to fruition in the lawsuit. This is, kind of like a.
There was no judgment.
There was a judge's decision. It didn't find, against the village. It's kind of complicated, but it's still pending. There's no judgment against the village, but the lawsuit is still pending. And the aspect of the case that is still pending is a claim that the village unconstitutionally took, like a condemnation type situation. Eminent domain, unconstitutionally took 149 Birch Street without compensation. It was really a one sentence allegation. There's not much to it in the paper, so I don't want to go more into it in this pending litigation. So it's settling that aspect of the case that's still pending. There's another aspect of the case, the more traditional classic Article 78, that was resolved without any payment of any money. Who said
It was settled.
It wasn't settled. It was
it was really a remand. It was really in no one's favor. It did not find any culpability on the part of the village zoning board of appeals. But it was remanded back to the zoning board of appeals and the ZBA to reconsider its review that started the whole litigation several months ago.
And have
They did reconsider it and they found, I guess, for lack of a better description, for purposes of brevity, they found what you would commonly think of as a layperson to be favorable to the property owner. The ZBA looked at it again and found that the property owner
Was entitled to retain prior use of the property.
grandfather use.
I just want to understand the background.
Sure.
Okay, apart from that, I didn't say this is kind of like, payment of a nuisance fee.
How do you want to characterize it? We're settling a case.
That's not an unfair
I don't want to.
description. It's essentially a nuisance.
All right. Okay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor of the settlement?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Resolution 2511, to refund $23.50 for the mistaken payment of a boat launch fee. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
Does anybody have a comment? God help you if you do. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Ms. Shrek, for your $23.50. We really need to make a resolution to refund, like. both an accident.
Oh, I was gonna
That's
say,
why
yeah, isn't it?
you're,
You gotta write it up, so.
you literally approve every single check we write.
Every check we write, okay.
Can we have a resolution that any amount under $50?
I don't think we're allowed to do that, that's right, that's like state law.
I kind of like the speed hump of things coming to the board.
All right.
I don't really want that discretion.
You just want to be able to give somebody $23 back.
I'm Dennis on the
22,
petty
is it?
cash. Can we get a resolution?
Well, anyway, congratulations to them. All right, we covered, it's, the one thing we did skip was the village administrator report. I assume we don't have a village clerk report. Because we
You assume
generally do
correctly.
not. Okay, village administrator report.
One day you please.
One day you're gonna surprise me, I know.
Just a couple of items. The mayor and I were involved in reviewing Nyack tourism grants. You may want to say a word or two. We're getting close to, I think, a final.
You gotta be right into the mic, Mike, Andy.
Yeah, can you hear me?
No,
Oh, that's interesting.
No, it's on. We just can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay. So just a word or two about Nyack tourism grants. Visit Nyack did coordinate another invitation for grant proposals. There's a list of potential grantees. It has been reviewed by the committee, I think, twice now.
It was reviewed by the committee and then we had interviews with some of the applicants yesterday.
And I believe next meeting
Or the day before.
we'll be bringing to the village board a list of proposed funding levels for a set of
Just
exciting
as a-
projects.
As an FYI to the board and to the public, we had about $112,000 of grant application requests from about, I would say about 15 different applicants, and we had about $50,000 to allocate. Which it's more than we've ever allocated in one round before. The most we've ever allocated is about 35,000, but we're starting to build up a reservoir of the money that comes from the hotel tax, which is what funds the tourism grants.
So next meeting, we should see the resolution proposing funding on that. Just one other item, we did convene our community development block grant committee. Trustee Carlin was there. I don't know, were you there too? No, sorry, you're looking at me like.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, what?
This is every year the village applies to the CDBG for funding for sidewalks and building improvements and other such things. And the committee is convened. We updated the committee on the expanded eligible geography within the village. Is no longer just the piece along Broadway and Franklin, but there's the western side of the village is also eligible, going from Midland essentially west and up into the central Nyack part of the village. So the committee is really looking at options for different kinds of improvements that might make sense to try to fund through that program. We are preparing to implement our latest grant commitment from CDBG, which is sidewalks on the north end of the village between First Ave, Jefferson, Marion, Third, and so on. We're involved with the engineering right now, kind of developing the scope for that project. And we are highly likely, we have sort of, each one of these things kind of happens through steps, but it looks like we'll also have about $300,000 to do improvements on the senior center on Depew Avenue. So we're excited about a roof replacement, some HVAC improvements, some window work, and some other things that needs to happen there. So that's just a report back on CDBG. There will be a public hearing for the CDBG grant, which happens every year, hosted by this village board. I think it's in March, one of our March meetings. And we'll have more information for you before we get to that point, so that we'll have a sense of which projects make the most sense to push forward. So it's just that. And lastly, I wanted to mention that we are starting to begin kind of working our way into our Memorial Park Shoreline Path grant funded project, which will build a walkway from the pedestrian bridge over towards the bridge viewing platform. And we had a lot of steps to go through, but we did get the funding contract from the state. We had an initial conversation with a landscape architect from Brooker Engineering, which is the village engineer. And we're excited to move that forward. We're going to have our first meeting with our state funding project coordinator soon. And we'll keep this village board apprised. Eventually, we'll need to form a small advisory group, just like CDBG, to advise the village on design questions that'll come up as far as the sort of design of that pathway, landscaping and furniture and so on. And so I look forward to any people you think would be good to serve on that committee. If you could please let me and Anne Marie know, and we'll start to put a little group together. If you as a board member would like to participate directly on that group, please let us know so we can schedule around your availability. And eventually we'll get to the point where we have a design which can go out to bid. I expect that to happen sometime this year. I am not promising construction this year. It all depends on the pace, which is slow, of state approvals of various steps along the way. So in all likelihood, the project we want will cost more than the grant we have, and this board will be faced with a question about whether to throw more money into the project or not.
Do we get the grant? What was that?
Yeah, we have a contract from the state for, I think it's $450,000.
So we have the grant.
We have the grant contract from the state, yeah.
Was it DEC?
It's the Department of State.
Department of State?
Yeah.
Have you looked at any parks money? Just, well, for future, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'll, never mind. I'll bring that up later.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
All right, 2 items of new business. The first is the Conservation Service Corps. Andy, you want to go through that? We don't have much in the packet, I don't think about it. I couldn't find it.
Oh, sure, thanks. So the village also has a grant to map its stormwater system, the catch basins and pipes and outfalls and so on, that where rainwater makes its way to the river. It's a requirement from the state to map it. When we finish the map, it makes us eligible for grants that we'd like for certain kinds of equipment. And the best way to proceed to collect some of this information is to have sort of an intern level people sort of running around inspecting catch basins and figuring out where the pipes are coming in and which way they go out and so on. The Rockland AmeriCorps is a county-run program that that pays a part of the wages of college students and they typically run a couple of these projects every summer. So our engineer, Eve Mancuso from Brooker, suggested that we apply to AmeriCorps to get her a little extra help. And so with your support, I'd like to do that. I think, I actually don't have the memo in front of me. I think it's cost about $5,000 for 2 of them. And it's both a nice thing to do to help college students gain career exposure, and it costs less than the engineering company hiring interns to do the runaround.
Can we try to give preference to local students?
Yeah, we will definitely recruit locally and see who we can find from NIAC.
Village of NIAC.
Right.
Well, I thought it was through I thought everyone applies to the county and then.
It's a county-run program, but we have to interview and we'll promote it locally.
No, I know, but don't they just get a placement? Like it's not a residency. We don't get a preference on.
No, we don't get to determine it, strictly speaking, but we can work with the coordinator to try to elevate.
I just want to make sure to set expectations that.
Yeah.
It might be a Rockland person, but I don't know.
It's definitely a Rockland person,
Yeah.
and it may be a Nyack person if that person actually like joins.
Yeah.
All right, before we talk about, so they're just advising us about that, letting us know about it. We don't take any action, right?
No, but if you're okay with that application, I'd like to go forward with it.
Oh, yeah.
We're all fine with it.
Alright.
Before we get to the next issue, which is the trees, I just realized, because when I looked down the communications, that's why Mark is here with Teresa to talk about the cannabis education vendor event. So in the interest of not making them sit through a couple more minutes of, and I apologize, I would have brought you up early, we had so much going on at the beginning of the meeting that I forgot, and then we had all the public comment. But yeah, why don't we skip to that? There's a proposal for the use of Memorial Park. I think that there's materials in the packet. This is from Teresa to do cannabis education. I guess she's working with Mark, the operations guru, to get everything done in the village.
So you didn't just come to enjoy our meeting, Mark?
I enjoy it.
Give me anything
Yeah,
about-
I feel a little hurt, that's all.
We're talking about another kind of plant. It's not what you this is Teresa. Teresa would like to do a community-friendly cannabis education event in Memorial Park on Saturday, the 26th of April, from 12 to 6. There'll be about 25 to 30 vendors on the upper field. It's to educate people about cannabis, all kinds of entertainment, guest speakers, lessons. It's a good event to get people to understand cannabis, the laws, the regulations, everything involved with it. She's got some of the residents and the merchants here in town that will be involved with as well. She's got some people behind us on the hotel night. It's gonna be a block of rooms so people will spend the weekend here in Nyack. And I have the logistics that I'll handle at another time if you don't need to hear it tonight. So she's looking for permission to use the park on that day, and if that's approved, she'd also like to have some of these vendors be able to sell cannabis in the park if the permits are permitted and the right licenses are in place, if that's.
That's the licensing issue. We don't deal
Right,
with
yeah, I was
that.
gonna say, because I.
It's a two-step thing.
Yeah.
It's permission for the event.
To ensure that everything is.
There'll be no smoking in the park. The park's a smoking facility, so.
No, I know they
No
do those
cannabis will be allowed
consortiums,
to
I wasn't
smoke
sure if they started them up, that was my only.
So that's the, what she's looking to do.
I can hop in here and say that this is a wellness event, like this is about alternative, not about, but this is about teaching people about other. Oh, I apologize, everyone. Hi. Oh, how much fun. I know you all, I've seen you all, it's such a pleasure to talk to you all, really. So this event it's more of a lifestyle and a fitness and a wellness event. I'm already talking to yoga instructors. We're so psyched to even put up another little stage where you can do a yoga session. There are musicians and DJs, but more importantly than that is the group that I'm involved with and that I represent. We're all about teaching communities about cannabis and using it safely and using it more so for medicinal purposes. Yeah, they're recreational purpose. We all know that. But that's not what this is about. I see a beautiful day in Memorial Park where families can come and hang out and learn about this. It's not just about cannabis, it's about music, it's about us connecting. And I'm gonna really honestly say it's about changing perceptions about what cannabis is. You know, whether we like it or not, we're a cannabis friendly. And I'd like for us to kind of, you know, be able to have a day in the park where we could all have a wonderful time. We have a beer, all right, you know, there's cannabis.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we
Yeah,
can't.
Saying that, so it's not, I'd like to ask you. I'd like to ask you about your comfort level and how you would
All right,
see
well,
this.
We're not gonna have a conversation
We're
about
not
that.
having a
No,
conversation.
we're not gonna have a conversation. You're asking us for permission to be able to use the upper level of the park
I am.
for a,
That's
cannabis themed wellness event that would involve vendors, it would involve some music. I think the normal workout with Andy, the normal restrictions on music, Mark knows how to do
Yeah,
that.
I'll take care of all that stuff.
Yeah, Mark will take care of that from that perspective. And just realize that there are, you know, there's no smoking in the park. As far as we don't have jurisdiction over cannabis sales. That's from the state authority. How that works out is between you and them. But there is no smoking, there's no drinking, Memorial Park as well, and there's no,
Not a drinking.
okay. Alright, so,
They have
any comments questions from the board? Thoughts one way or the other?
I'm cool with it.
I think that if Mark is involved, then you can rest assured that.
Yeah, I have faith in Mark that he'll manage the events. So we don't have
If He's
anything.
involved or not, that's a safe event for
yeah.
people.
Those people will be mellow, it'll be a
Yeah.
mellow event, yeah. All right, everybody, we don't have to, this event is when, April 28th?
It's actually the 26th as a typo.
26th, okay,
Red
so
Day of the 27th.
for when is it?
20 Saturday, the 26th, rain date Sunday, the 27th.
26th or the 27th, we don't have a resolution for it, we'll get it on the next meeting,
Right.
okay.
There are no conflicts, nothing, no.
There's no street fair. We may be having Hope Wade's dog fashion show, which will be up on North Broadway on the Saturday, the 26th. I'm sort of waiting to see if that actually happens or not.
I feel like dogs get out of this.
That's the only thing I see on the calendar. Spring Fest is 2 weeks before that.
It's the 13th.
Yeah, no, there's no, I put the village events on my calendar, I don't see anything on the 26th or 27th. All right, unless somebody wants to preview that they're gonna post this in a motion form, let's give them the informal that we're okay with it, and then we'll memorialize in a motion at the next meeting. You're all right? Okay, all right, well done, thank you for coming, and sorry to make you wait.
No problem.
All right, let's go back to the
Good night,
agenda.
guys. Got a high
Night,
five for
guys.
these.
There's people in the back are with you as well? Were they with you? No, I think there's people in the back with them. All right, next item was 11.2, the tree planting proposal. Let's summarize this because there were some changes, just give them the general sense.
So in your emails, there's a supporting email from the chair of your Parks Commission. Myself, trustee Carlin, and a few of the Parks Commission members, I think it was Minerva and Andrea, were down there, and they have reviewed the tree planting plan, changed it a little bit, and have approved the final version, which essentially plants some trees kind of between our sledding hill and the brook heading down towards Rex's Rocks. That will bring the tree line out into the lawn a little bit. It will not be close enough to the sledding hill for a sled to hit one. And it's viewed as a good thing by the Parks Commission to add a little more shade to the south side of the Great Lawn. Over
Okay.
time, of course, it takes a long time to grow a big tree, but in time, in an ideal world, we eventually have some shade trees down there.
All right, any comments?
I like this proposal, so I'm not necessarily on the proposal, but it would be nice to see, I guess, the tree committee start to think about some of some areas up closer to where the McDonald's is, especially when you're driving on that portion, I think, of DQ. I know there's a lot of construction going on over there, but there used to be a lot of vegetation, and that did help with noise for those neighbors over there, so. In the future time, like, when the next projects are coming up, if you can consider that area, and even part of the area which a lot of trees were just taken down by the housing authority. I know that might be a little different because it's the housing authority property, but just a thought to consider.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. In all likelihood, the places where those trees have been lost are on private property. And it would have been the planning board may or may not have a tree replacement sort of plan. I don't know the specifics of those applications, but I hope that there'll be a some planting after. I'm just not sure. Yeah, we should continue to look for, and the tree committee has been great at finding little nooks and crannies where they could get some more shade trees in along sidewalks and streets and so on. Yeah.
And it seems to me that the proposed tree planting encroaching more on the Great Lawn. I mean, are we looking to cut off more Great Lawn space? I'm a little bit hesitant about, curious about why you're doing that, why the tree commission is doing that.
They're not here to sort of advocate and I'm not sure I can do an adequate job of it, but I'll try. With climate change, it's gonna get hotter and hotter. Shade is sort of a precious commodity. A tall tree in a lawned area provides shade. We're not talking about putting in a grove with underbrush and shrubbery and small trees that make it impenetrable. It's a plan for a park-like setting, which is basically the lawn with the occasional tree growing out of it, hopefully over time to have a fairly extensive canopy for shade purposes, but you would still be able to walk and see and easily move through that space is the idea.
The grove.
It's not, I'm not even sure a grove really, it's whatever it is, maybe 6 or 8 individual trees being planted. It will continue to be surrounded by grass, not by underbrush or other kinds of landscaping elements that would fill that space.
Stand.
Maybe it's a stand. I'm not even sure it's a stand. Maybe it's kind of like it's a copse.
Stand.
I'm not sure. I think the main point is that the lawn, the park-like setting of the lawn as a flat traversable surface that you could throw a frisbee through or run through or play croquet through, whatever it is, remains as a recreational area with some trees in it that you obviously would pose an obstacle if you ran into one or hit it with a football, but you could run amongst them easily. Does that make any sense?
A little bit.
Okay.
But I'm still not convinced.
So I'm happy to bring comments back to the tree committee. If this board wants to deny this for the time being.
It shows dot, tree. Let's get that. So we can see how far in truth. No, that's not accurate anymore. They've changed that. They changed that. They moved stuff because that was what the most recent email said.
Maybe I haven't seen.
There was an update on the plan.
There was like an email today at like 6 o'clock saying that they were moving some of the trees because they were too close to the sledding.
Right, and I believe the plan in front of you is the updated plan.
The one that's in the packet?
I think so.
All right.
I'll double check.
Let's.
But maybe you need to hear more from the
Let's
tree
do more
committee
for
and
2
support.
weeks.
Yeah,
Let's see
okay.
someone come talk. I'd like to see I want to see a map that literally says like this. Tree. Here's where they are. So I want to see, we want to see how much they intrude on the traditional kind of baseball field area.
Yeah, they don't go anywhere near that. You'd have to hit a long fly ball to.
Well, if they're by Rex's Rocks, they're in right field.
I mean, I'm just concerned.
And you know how far I can hit the ball.
Maybe you could hit that far.
We're long. Now we're starting to.
I mean, it's trees on the edges of the lawn. There's no trees going into the center of the lawn, you know?
It's all on the edge, I know, because this whole area is open, that's part of, I'm just saying, it's on the edge of that, I mean, this is still all very open.
All right, let's take it up next time. But let's get some more information. Let's try to get someone from the Parks Commission here and from the tree committee to talk about it.
Right.
Next, communications about Hudson River Day. Is that that's the kids checking the water?
Yeah, it's the science class where they bring the whole school down to the park and.
Yes, absolutely. Anybody have a
Okay.
comment or question about it? No. Anyone gonna fight the kids coming and checking the water? Okay, so that's good. We're good with that. That's in October. Louise Newsom, the Trade and Prosper Craft Vendor Market. I think we've talked about this before. Did she come and talk to the board? I've talked to her so many times about it. Yeah, this is I worked with her on this to try to make it a craft market that would be very inclusive of the local businesses. It's going to be using the upper level of the Memorial Park as well as the Easter Square. But the idea is that there'll be a map, an event map of all the vendors, which will include any business that wants to participate will have its location on the map. So people who are following it, she came here and talked about it. So I think she just wanted to prove the dates because they moved around a bit. They're now going to be October 4th and 5th. There is nothing else on that schedule for that day. Any comments or questions? We could get a resolution on next time? All right, resolution next time. And deeds, we did Mark Mangan last issue, not the last issue, something else. And it's the handicap space request for South Franklin by Pavilion. She's an elderly, not longtime Nyack resident, would like to have a handicap space put toward that end of Franklin by the end of the village, close to Cedar Hill, where the Pavilion complex is. She has a parking space at the Pavilion, but it's very far from her residence, and I guess the way it works out, her residence, if she could walk to, that basically, if she could walk to Franklin a lot easier to be able to get into her car.
Yeah, the issue is that the.
It's not hers. It's a handicap.
No,
spot.
it's always a public, it's
Yeah,
a
it's
public,
public
but
spot.
it provides for the opportunity at least to, she's more likely to get a parking spot. So she has the hang tag. And she's handicapped and it's hard to get in and out from the rear where the residents have parking. The front is much more accessible for her. And I will just add to that, that there's, it seems like a reasonable request to me and to the parking authority.
Okay.
Which side of Franklin?
She would be on it's a Pavilion access issue. Pavilion,
So this part, so you mean on the east side of South Franklin,
right.
is there a parking space there?
There's a whole lane of parking there's a lane of parking from Cedar Hill Ave to Hudson, yeah.
It's non-metered. I think it's not.
It's not.
Actually, we intended to meet it a while back, but we never got to it, so. It's one of those good ideas.
They benefit from our inattention. All right, everybody generally okay with this?
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, let's get a resolution on the table for next time about it. Mark may be handled, Jen and Nazario, I'll just give you the quick update. The Tunnels to Towers mobile exhibit is a mobile exhibit that lets people experience the horrible events of 9/11. It's, I think, it's sort of set up in a trailer that expands out.
Right,
And it's kind of a mobile exhibit that people can check out. It moves from place to place, obviously, because that's the idea of being a mobile exhibit. Jenna was working with Anne-Marie Tilsty. Anne-Marie really pushed to try to get it in Memorial Park. It looks like we're gonna get it. We just have to approve the use of Memorial Park. This would really be, I think it would be it'd be on the blacktop, right? Because it's a trailer that I think would be on the
right,
asphalt.
yeah, it would be, it's a trailer, it's a
It would be
tractor
on the
trailer
asphalt,
with
it
it.
wouldn't even be on the ground, it wouldn't be on the grass. And you asked, well, why are we doing it for October 11th, not September 11th? As you would imagine, the demand for the mobile exhibit during the week of 9/11 is very high. So we got it when we could get it. So we're gonna try to get it for October 9th to 11th. It will be a nice event. We'll be able to promote that we have the mobile exhibit coming during the week of 9/11 when we have our annual ceremony, and we'll be able to promote the ceremony. So hopefully we get people coming out and checking it out. It's a very nice thing, so people do not forget those days. Any comments or questions on that? Did I get it right?
No further.
No brainer. Yeah, I think I agree with that. All right, any other public comment? Do you have public comment? No?
What question, but
Sure, that's fine. You can ask a question.
having nothing to do with what you said.
You can, it should have nothing to do with what I just said, actually.
Shout.
No, you don't have to,
Pardon my ignorance, nice to almost meet all of you.
and you are?
My name is Melanie Hanson.
Hi, Melanie.
Hi. I was wondering if the minutes for an event like this are available anywhere?
The minutes on this meeting?
Yeah.
As soon as they're finished, they'll be put up on the, in the agenda for the meeting for our next meeting is when we approve the minutes, and that's when those meetings are formally adopted.
And where would someone find
That would find it right on nyack.gov. If you look on the meetings,
Okay.
look for the meeting of the
And anyone,
village
you don't
board.
need access to a.
Anyone
portal
can
or a
access it.
special code or
No.
anything?
No, it's accessible to everyone. It's a public document.
On the village website, there is a meeting archive.
Beautiful, thank you. I'm gonna familiarize myself with the website. I'm
And
gonna
then,
absolutely own the fact I have no experience.
and you can find all the minutes here.
Thank you.
If you wanna rewatch, YouTube Village of Nyack page, every meeting is posted.
The video of every
The
meeting.
video of every.
Including,
yeah,
you're right now,
including
you're in
this
the,
one.
you're in the
We're on
video.
Yeah, yeah.
You're on the video, yes.
Yeah.
That's what this is. That's the recording.
Any way to get that one?
Nope, sorry. Public meeting. Believe me, I would take it all back if I could. There'd be nothing but a test pattern when you'd see the meeting.
So
For someone sitting in the back, maybe needing to question the current contact lens prescription, I saw your cup. I thought that was a thermos.
It was-
Yeah. Remember,
It
I'm
looks
gonna
like
keep
a
going,
thermos.
yeah, okay, why don't I just keep going? You can see.
Yeah,
I may or may not be someone who is interested in the hedge situation.
issue, okay.
Are those bylaws available somewhere and who would I
If you,
contact?
if you Google,
It's also on
if
our
you look code
website.
360, if you Google the NIAC code, you can also find the NIAC code on the website. But if you just Google NIAC code, you'll find our actual code provisions there. If you, I believe it's, if you
Code
just search the word
360.
hedge,
It's on
you'll
the-
find the provisions, they'll come up, because there's not that many, there aren't that many code provisions that relate to hedges.
And I just wanna make sure that I fully understand before I ask any questions, but if I did have questions, who would the right person be for me to?
You reach out to the building department,
Anyone who picks
the
up the.
bill, so you come right here and just knock on that door over there.
Yeah.
Mary,
That's for Mary Screen,
Mary Street, she's kind of like.
and she's very nice,
I've heard very nice things about you, Mr. Harmon.
as opposed to the rest of us.
That's on camera.
I'm on camera. I'll just say that a neighbor that I ran into on the street last night happened to say lovely things
Oh,
about
he's a
you.
lovely man, he's a wonderful man.
May or may not have mentioned that for the first time ever, I was gonna
How much
have
do I
to
owe
have
for that?
some, it's $49.95. I can give you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
And I would just say that the idea that someone would actually want to understand what's going on before they made public comment is a very unusual perspective that we've had
No, we
in the
need,
past.
we need more people like that. That's
We need
good.
more, it's good that
Good
you want to
civics,
educate
good
yourself, that's
civics,
good.
yes.
We often have people come in that don't have the interest in
Yeah.
learning what's going on.
I don't wanna keep talking to the thermos, but so.
Right there.
Yeah.
Just think of it as the three people that are watching on YouTube right now. That's all. We don't have a huge viewership.
So it's okay.
We don't get a big number.
I would say that I would completely agree with things being looked after in a case by case.
Yes, I think that's right.
Manner, method, and mine does not seem to be in keeping with other people who I met for the first time tonight.
Are you on a corner?
Possibly.
Somerville's
I'm not going down, I'm not showing with a hedge clipper. You think I'm gonna go by your house tonight and do this?
No,
All
we're gonna
right,
go
well,
like-
I'm just saying that because if you're not on a corner, then none of this really applies to you.
Oh, no, I am.
But
on
if you
board.
are on a corner,
I am on
then there
board.
is an
There's
issue,
a
yeah.
Very, very serious, notice.
Oh, you got the notice, okay.
It didn't occur to me. I found it to be so specific, and I'm so pleased to know that this is a place I can come to. It didn't occur to me that this was something that was happening elsewhere in the village. I immediately called my landscaper saying, oh dear God, because it was quite serious.
Yes, it came across
It
very
was
scary.
Very serious, and the